Okay. I got to jolt myself because I am not feeling the best, but I am here with you. I am here with two of my favorite people on the planet, Michael Dean and C Liegh.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
Good morning, people.
And
Under the table.
yeah, I'm looking a little dark. Got to brighten myself up a little bit. All right. So we should have some other family joining us, but we'll see if they show up. And Lee Christian, yes, you are first in the chat. Yes.
Yeah, Lee.
Right.
Yay, Lee.
Brother Lee.
And we got Anna B. I may not die for you, but I will roll out the royal carpet for you. All right. And that's Lee Christian.
Yeah. That's like I told this, back in my younger single days, I was trying to holler at this honey, and I said, baby, you so fine, I give you somebody else check. She said, what? I said, well, I can't give you my check, but I definitely give you somebody else check. So I hear you, Anna Lee.
Okay. And we have Clarissa, who thought they were early, but Lee Christian has bumped everybody. All right, we got Nick Felden from snowy Denver. I got to give a very special shout out to Christina Schlosser from frigid Minneapolis for pointing out the era. So, guys, we have to get the paperback version because Christina told us that A Love Bazaar was not last week. That's in the old book, really? And it's actually this week. So, hey, Ricky.
Oh, okay. So there was a revision.
Yeah, it was a revision.
Damn it, Duane. I dog it.
I'm going to say, since I got the paperback, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you, brother Tudahl. Don't worry about them haters, baby.
See, the thing is, I have the, the early edition hardcover. You dig, for the elite.
You out there for everybody else. You out there for everybody else.
So that's the difference. They're not like us.
Well, I'm gonna tell you how I handle it. I treat books the way I treat Microsoft Windows updates. I let y'all try it out with the bugs, and then when the paperback come out, exactly. I let y'all handle all them bugs, get all them updates.
Exactly.
And then when 10.2.4 come out, that's when Brother C Liegh show up.
You guys got the version where Apollonia wrote the songs, but we didn't have the early version. That's the difference.
All right, we better stop. I have a cease and desist. So we got Chad Martin from Minneapolis, and no, Michael Dean did not get docked again. Michael Dean was on time.
Baby.
That's right. And we got blessings from Melvin Rush.
Not do that I turn on him. Hit him with that right.
One of my favorite moments is, again, I'm not feeling the best. What was the James Brown documentary where Questlove and Alan Leeds did the commentary?
Yeah.
What was it?
Oh, I can't think of the name of it.
I can't hear you, Ricky.
Oh, Mr. Dynamite?
Yeah, Mr. Dynamite.
What up, Rick?
Hey,
what up, Ricky?
Mike? What's up, MD? C Liegh.
What's up, good brother?
What's going on?
Tell you something about your hat in a minute after Sister Prof when Prof does get through.
Yeah, so in Mr. Dynamite, there's actually a part where I think it's when Bootsy and Catfish are on stage and James Brown does that. He kind of looks back and he does. I love that. Go ahead, C Liegh.
I saw a whole bunch of them colors yesterday, brother Wyatt.
Oh
yeah. We we know Jackson State is the HBCU national champions, and Jackson, Mississippi is the blackest city in America, 80% black. We threw a national parade for our national champions, and to see tens of thousands of black people in the streets celebrating their local HBCU nothing but wonderful, nothing but beauty, man. So you know the Divine Nine was represented, the Mega, the AKAs, all of them was out there. But to see tens of thousands of black folk, nothing bad happening, just loving on each other. And I'll end with something I learned, Brother Dean and Brother Wyatt, from two black women. I learned this lesson from two black women at a Prince show. Prince had come to Jackson, Mississippi doing the Emancipation Tour, right after the Love for One Another.
Mm-hmm.
And Prince played the show, and then he played the after show at a place called The Dock back then, 1996. So I went to the concert, then I went to the after show at The Dock. And Prince played for an hour at The Dock. As I'm walking out, two sisters, Prince had sweated out their perm. They drenched in sweat. And as I walked by, one sister said to the other sister, and she was exhausted. She looked at that sister and she said, "Girl, I'm broke, but I'm happy." I got to live my life like that. I said, for the rest of my life, I'm going to live my life like a black woman just leaving a Prince concert. I'm broke, but I'm happy. Sweated out my perm, broke. So after that parade, I was exhausted, but I was happy. That's it.
But you were happy. Okay. All right. Okay. Since you mentioned that, C Liegh said, D'Angelo, I want to give a shout out to all the fam. That's like AKs, Deltas, and Zetas. They had Founders Day this week. Okay. Like literally almost back to back. The 13th, the 15th, and the 17th. So happy January birthday to all the purple people in the Greek sorority community. So happy Founders Day to all of y'all.
All right.
Hey,
okay.
Can we just deviate for 1 second? Sure. Hopefully it doesn't go crazy.
No.
Theo said something in the chat.
Okay.
I would give anything. Here, let me.
I got it.
So I would give anything to have experienced a Prince show and after show. And it's a comment like that. You could see it and you could think, well, just another comment. But that's something that a lot of people now, or everybody, is never going to have a chance to experience again. And I was just wondering if we could even, if it's just 5 minutes, but anybody of here on the panel or maybe in the can you just give Theo just what's your feeling when you went to a Prince concert, not actually going, being there, but that anticipation of, it was the day before or maybe it was earlier that day and you knew you was about to go see Prince. Like, what did that feel like to you? You know what I'm saying?
Since I went to, I was trying to count in my head. I got to go to 3 after shows. So I went to 3 concerts that were followed by after shows. And for me, it was relatively late because my first after show didn't come until 96. So that was my first after show. And so I had seen Prince live because I saw Prince live 3 times before Purple Rain. So seeing Prince live by 96 is not new. But I was kind of like Theo was in 96. I had never gone to an after show. And so for me, even though by then and before I have to preface this, I actually saw Prince in Paisley Park before I actually went to my first after show. There was just another kind of crazy event. So I saw Prince play in Paisley Park in 95, I want to say 94, 95. And so it was completely surprising to me because you just didn't think Prince would do an after show in Jackson, Mississippi, right? Let's be clear, but I'm just going to be honest. When you thinking Prince is going to play an after show, it's going to be LA, New York, Chicago, right. Atlanta, right? So at the show, after the show, Mr. Haynes was in the crowd and he was just walking around the crowd. And so I knew who it was. I made a beeline. I'm talking to him. And so I was a little different. They actually announced it after the show. They say, "Hey, everybody, meet us at the Dock for an after show." And I remember so I knew what the Dock was. The Dock was a great kind of rock venue, after hours spot.
Okay.
And so there was no anticipation before, but I remember thinking, driving over to the Dock, trying to beat everybody there, that this was going to be, as somebody put in the chat, this is going to be the one thing on my bucket list that I never thought I was going to be able to do. Because the great thing for me about the after show is that you get to see Prince. This is the one place where I didn't mind hearing Prince do covers. This was the one place where I didn't mind the free form jamming. And so when you went to the after show, and I will say that our after show was everything you wanted a Prince after show to be. He played the deep cuts. He played the covers. He laughed and joked with the crowd. The funny thing was he was playing in Jackson, Mississippi in August in this little bitty hole in the wall club, and had the nerve to come in there with a full coat on and complain about it was hot. He said, y'all got the heat on Jackson, Mississippi? We like, no, you got that big ass coat on. Like, it was like, and so, like, I remember he played for about 30 minutes. He said, on the one, Jackson, y'all gonna have to turn the heat off. And we said, you got to take that big ass coat off. It's Mississippi, player. It's August. And I end on an after show on this. My wife almost got it. My wife, who people don't know, she's a political map maker. What a lot of people don't know is that in her previous life, my wife was a cosmetologist. She almost got hired by Kim Berry to help as an assistant to do Prince's hair.
Wow.
Because after the after show, we spent an hour behind the place, but in the alley where the tour bus was. We got to talk for an hour to Kim Berry, and my wife just talked about doing hair. And the conversation got to where she actually asked my wife, well, what's your schedule looking like? Now, to me, when somebody started asking what your schedule looking like, that's leading. So to Theo and to everybody, that was my first after show experience that for me, it was kicking off the bucket list, but it was really getting to see Prince in that rare moment where he is displaying to you why he got into music. The after show is another, and also what I end on this, what I talk about in my book is the after show for Prince actually grows from the history of when Prince's dad and Jimmy Jam, them dad, were in bands in Minneapolis. They would play for white crowds at 7 and 8 o'clock. They would play polkas. They would play top 40. And then after Prince's dad and Jimmy Jam's dad would play for white crowds,
and they hit the juke joint
over to North Minneapolis and play the stuff that they love. And so when Prince was doing the after shows, he was giving a nod to his father and Cornbread Harris and all the black musicians in Minneapolis saying, I remember from where I come, and therefore this after show is me bringing back to the roots of black music in North Minneapolis. I'll shut up.
There you go. There you go, Theo.
So for me, I will say it always started before the concert with all of the releases, the album releases, the 7-inch singles, the 12-inch singles.
Oh, you would play them and stuff?
I mean, just meaning the anticipation of seeing Prince live began with getting that album, because I knew that the concert was a coming. Except that didn't work for me for Sign the Times and Parade. And
Parade. We had 4 years, a 2-album drought.
Can I ask you a question? I need to ask you a question in that preparation. Did you get to a point, for me, after having seen Prince live before Purple Rain, so did you get to a point that you would be listening to the songs, wondering what the arrangements were going to be live? So I'll stop there, so you can go on. Was that part of your anticipation as well?
I knew they were going to be different.
Okay.
Because I just knew that they were going to be better.
Right.
I always preferred the songs live. So for me, and to be honest, Prince gave me a reason to get out of bed every morning to get those releases. And then when the concerts were coming, it was such an amazing time to be alive. And when you're at the concert, even though I know Michael Dean said that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the anticipation.
That's all good.
Nothing else mattered. You're so in the moment. You're so focused. I could have died happy any moment within any of those concerts, and I would have been okay. In that moment, it was so glorious that that's all I needed. It's nothing like it. Can't stress.
There was a, like a buzz day of the Prince show I don't know if you remember, you know what I'm saying, but it was like this feeling. It was like electric almost. It was like you couldn't sleep, you couldn't rest. You were just so amped, and it was like an adrenaline, you know, was kind of just going through you like all day. And it seemed like all the radio stations in the city were playing like Prince music, and you know, like news reports like, hey, Prince is in town. And even people that couldn't go would somehow be around the arena or just hanging about, you know what I'm saying? And then especially when it got to the after show era, like everybody was kind of like, I wonder where he's gonna play like after the show. It was like, okay, keep your ears open in case you hear something, you know what I'm saying? It was just, man, I missed that feeling.
Yeah, I miss that feeling too. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just to quickly add, you know, every that anticipation part, like it just felt like everybody in the city was aware. Oh, you going to that Prince concert? Even if they wasn't going, but they knew it was a special. Oh, Prince is in town. Yeah, I remember you used to go. Yeah, Purple Rain, I saw that. But it was that anticipation. I think the concerts itself, at least for me at that point, I spent so many years just staring at the record cover and then the inside and sort of imagining what this particular album must be about visually, and you just had the pictures to go on. And sometimes we didn't get the tour. Like I would stare at Sign of the Times and Parade, never got to see those live. I could stare at some of the concert pictures that may make their way into a magazine,
right on a Black Beat or something.
Yeah. Right. So a lot of it was my imagination. So when you finally get to go, like Sign of the Time, Love Sexy, after so many years of not seeing them, in my case, it was I don't know, how could I say this without sounding ridiculous and nasty?
Supercalifragilistic.
It's like the anticipation of getting with that significant other could have been, it was so great that it just blows you. You either two ways you can do it. You're gonna be a 30-second brother, and it's like, the music is just like, it's like, God, that 2 hours went that quick, or it was.
I guess you'll be the only one having fun tonight.
There you go. And maybe that's what I'm saying. But you would walk away like, God, that 2 hours went like that. Like I was ready for him to keep going for another 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Or I think for me later it was, you fall in love with it all. Like you take the time that you're actually now able to see what's going on, and that part of just seeing Prince in his element and being appreciated. Like, God damn, this dude loves what he does. Like you can see it. Like this is what it looks like when somebody is a master at fucking everything they do, and they're supported in it. That's the other part of it. Became that to me. But we just wanted to ask the question because of what Theo was saying. It was a great question. I think sometimes you need just to be able to hear people that did get to go, and we can kind of live a little bit through that, because that's how I was with the parades. It's a sign of time when I would hear about those early celebrations that I didn't go to. You know what I mean?
Man, what's that that Black Thought lyric from like Love of My Life? He says it's like the anticipation of time froze. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that feeling. I know you kind of like when you're at the show, like you said, like, man, okay, those 3 hours went by kind of fast.
Yeah, just all the other people. And I think too, at least for me, Prince was such an isolated thing. Like I enjoyed that myself at home, but to be in a stadium of people who's all enjoying it with you, like, whoa, and the energy of that. That's the other part of it. It's the energy of the people being in that place all like that. It's so different from when you're listening to it in your headphones or just by yourself. When it's a communal thing and it's Prince communal, it's one thing to see it when we see the concert footage and you're like, yo, that was a great show. Imagine the audience and the power of their energy that was going back and forth between Prince. Like I don't know, sometimes that is conveyed in the video, but when you are there, that's a whole other experience, like none other.
I'll tell you, when you said that, you made me think about, now I know we don't want to belabor the point, it made me think about the difference between diehards and casual fans. So when the Love for One Another, Face Down had been released, And remember the Face Down with the cassette, and it had the live version of Face Down.
Mm-hmm.
So Prince goes into Face Down. Like Monica and I, we hear the intro to Face Down. And if you remember the cassette, there's a chant in the cassette. So when Prince goes when we hear Face Down start up, Monica and I immediately stand up and we start yelling, play that mother in bass. Play that mother. All right, so we're doing that, and we are around like people who are like, they're casuals. Because they're looking at Monica and I like we had lost our damn mind. Like they did, so Prince is playing Face Down. He goes through it. And then, of course, he gets to the end of it. And Prince goes, play that. And then so all the casual people looked at us like, what the hell? How did y'all know? Like, it was like you knew who were the casual and you knew who were the diehards. And I remember when we were walking out of the concert, there was like a group of fans who they weren't in our area. A group of fans went running up to us and said, we knew y'all were real Purple people because y'all was yelling, play that fucking bass when the song first popped up. And it's like, you can't describe what it's like to be in, and people who know the chants or get the jokes or know all those things in the live thing. So yeah, so that was another one of those things, just catching up, right, and seeing them people.
Well, I know we don't want to belabor this, but I think it's really important to double down on what Michael Dean said about it's nothing like being in the presence of a person who is not only a master, but it exudes that they love, absolutely love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's so inspiring. It's so life affirming. It restores your faith in humanity, which is what Prince often did for me personally, just through his artistry. So I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
And I would say both the live show and the after show, something that we talk about it, but I don't think we talk about it enough. I think in both of those, and maybe a little bit more in the after show, but I think in both, seeing Prince live, you also learned how funny he was in real time. Like that's when his humor really, and that's for me going all the way back to seeing the Dirty Mind show and the Controversy show. And I remember there was this one moment in the Love for One Another show, he would do this bit. He was like, I'm a stage dive. I'm gonna jump right here, and I want y'all to carry me all the way back to the back. He said, "Are y'all ready?" And of course, the people would lose their mind. They would go like, They go like, "Yeah." And he looked like, "Y'all must think I'm crazy." That's a perfect Prince joke, right? Those kind of things, and you realize like this dude is like you would catch the funny on the record, right? But then when you would put together the humor on the time records and not so much on this record, and then you see this brother live, you would go, "Oh, this dude funny for real."
Right.
And that's, I think, one of the things about, I would love for somebody out there, anybody, I'm always pushing for more Prince scholarship, to actually do an article, do a paper on Prince's sense of humor. And if you're going to do a paper on Prince's sense of humor, also include how that sense of humor was exuded in the live shows. I'll shut up.
And the rehearsals, which were my personal favorites.
Yeah, okay, that sounds like a homework assignment.
Right.
Okay, class, I need y'all to do a paper on, Prince's humor. That's gonna be a semester paper.
That's right.
It needs to have.
This is class. School's in. This
needs to have. Excuse me, Mr. C Liegh. Where can we get references? That's for you to find out.
That's right. I'm gonna need an annotated bibliography with 50 sources. I needed an MLA handbook on that.
Oh my God. Okay, we have
I watched Under the Cherry Moon. Does that count?
Yet. Oh my God. I know our timekeeper who is here today and has already given us a time check like 50 years ago.
All types of flags on the play. Flags on the play. Y'all going over time.
Yeah.
Damn it, I said y'all over time.
Look here. I remember the day, one day Kim just left. She was like, fuck it, I'm out. Kim just left. She was like, you know what?
He's like, time's up.
Hey, look, Kim be the one finding us.
There you go.
Y'all over time, D'Angelo.
One day Kim gonna have control of the edit. She just gonna cut the people. Why D'Angelo? He's talking. So we going again.
Oh my God.
We gonna be looking at the game boards. Hey man, what happened to my scene? What is
Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna already started. This is week 3 of What Did Prince Do This Week. And if this is your first week joining us, this is what we do. So this is a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series through an interactive weekly online book club and Saturday salon, echoing the spirit of the Harlem Renaissance. That just means we cut it up about all things Prince, music, film, books, you name it. We be talking about it. We be cutting. All right. And let me go to the next slide. We go week to week. And I'm going to have to add a slide that talks about which book we're reading. So C Liegh and I, we have the paperback version. And we know that because you see the little orange circle. And this is the most updated version. If you have the hardcover version, Duane came on a couple weeks ago and told us that this has 50 more pages and a lot of updates. And I did not know that. So I had to go
translation.
You can tell Duane is from our era because he's taking it back to like me and Mike got the album. Y'all got the CDs with the extra songs on them.
We got
the vinyl copy.
Yeah, we got the NIV version. C Liegh and I, we got the NIV version. That's right. Okay, and finally, our final fam is going to join us. Where's your book, Arthur?
Yay!
So you mean that I got this hardback book?
Yeah, brother. Welcome to the club.
We got the day 1 edition. That's all.
Right. We stood in line.
Yes,
exactly. You went out. We had to stand in line for our copy.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. So just know.
What's
so
up?
If you want it right, you got to get the paperback version, the NIV
see how
version.
she said right? You see that? You see that?
We already had an error. Me and Michael, we were all talking about Love Bazaar last week, and it's wrong. We're supposed to be talking about that this week. And I didn't even know that until Christina told me.
Hey, well, your Love Bazaar is in 2 parts.
In the words of Prince, you need that New World Translation. You need the truth. You need the truth, brother.
Oh my God.
Wait from the key.
All right. Okay, so let me try to get through this housekeeping super fast. We're going week to week. You can follow a detailed schedule, which I actually need to change now that I got the paperback version, but I just got it because that's based on the hardcover book. So just be aware of that. These will be archived at Polished Solid as well as at MDean on YouTube. And I can't stress enough. And I'm begging you, I'm down on my knees, begging you, please, 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 please subscribe, like, and help spread the word for Prince. And more specifically, Prince's work ethic. He put in the work and we want the world to know about it. How many bodies? Everybody's. So make sure you spread the word. All right. And let's see if I still know how to work this. Our hashtag is WDPDTW for What Did Prince Do This Week, or Why Do People Dance This Weird? And if you want to come on and talk to us about your experience, that's right, Michael Dean. Yes.
How many theaters is going to be in? That's another video.
Yes. So if you saw the Purple Rain tour, we would love to have you on because Theo wants to hear from you. He wants to hear what your experience was like. Theo wants to hear what your experience was like. So we would really love to have you on. And if you want to come on, WDPDTW@gmail.com. And then if you don't want to come on, because I know some of you don't want to do that, you can send us photos or whatever you want. And I got a second from Theo. So please. And then we yes.
And let me say this: if you worried about coming on camera because it's early in the morning and you don't want to see nobody, you don't want nobody to see you in your pajamas or your do-rag and your drawers, well, you won't be doing nothing that Prince ain't done. So come on the show in your pajamas and your do-rag and your drawers and tell us about your Purple Rain experience. Won't you come? The doors of the Purple Funk is open. Won't you come?
You know what?
Won't you come?
Yeah, I don't want to see you in your drawers.
Okay, cosplay a family member.
We do audio
family member. You know what I'm saying? The silk pajamas in the road.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So what are we going to be talking about next week in terms of the shows? The Cincinnati, Ohio show and the Memphis show. So if you went to either the Cincinnati show or the Memphis show, we want to hear from you. C Liegh, I feel like you got something to say.
I got a Memphis story, so I can't wait the next week. Oh, dang, will I be here next week? God dog it. I won't be here next week. Never mind.
Oh, can you come on the following week then?
Yes, I'll come on the following week and tell my Memphis story. It's a story about the Memphis concert because I grew up in Clarksville, Mississippi, which was 40 minutes away from Memphis, Tennessee. So I have a Memphis Purple Rain story. So I'll tell it the next week after.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. All right. So I just want to put out another call. I did this last week, but some of you weren't with us last week. Prince Vault is missing the January 11th Houston, Texas ticket. So if you have a ticket from the January 11th Houston, Texas show, send it to WDPDTW@gmail.com and I'll get it to Prince Vault so we can get that complete. And this is an independent endeavor. The state of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with what we do here. All right, we start off the show with lines. Eric Lee's Times Squared. We are about to get into the third week of What Did Prince Do This Week? What we know, because we totally didn't know what was right last week. So we are doing our 106th episode. And I joined, yes, that's right. Outrageous, Michael Dean.
Ooh, that would be a good.
Please don't say
that sound. We got to get a sound clip for that.
Please don't say outrageous around my wife. That is triggering for her. Okay. She actually watched that award show that night when she was watching that award show for Prince to get all his awards, and they kept giving them damn awards to Lionel Richie, and he kept saying outrageous to this day. You can't say outrageous around my wife. She is triggered. So this ain't no joke. It's like these ain't like yuck jokes. Like whenever someone says the word outrageous, Monica McInnis feels some kind of way. I return you back to your regular scheduled show.
Hey man, look, I ain't mad at her about that one. Outrageous.
Right. Monica, outrageous.
All right. Well, maybe we need to take it back to Shake. Okay. All right. So 6 live shows. So week 3 of 1985, Prince did 6 live shows, 1 song, and 3 studio sessions. So the 6 shows were 4 of them were in Houston, Texas on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then there was a special show in the AM at Texas Southern University on Wednesday. And then there was a show on Saturday in Birmingham, Alabama that Ricky went to. So I can't wait to hear from Ricky about his experience of Theo. You're going to hear about the Birmingham, Alabama show from someone who went there. And then we're going to talk about some overdubs and voice, overdubs and stuff for Dear Michelangelo. And I always loved that Prince spelled this with Michael with an E, because that's not how Michelangelo is traditionally spelled, but you know how Prince loved to do things with names. And then we'll also talk more about Sister Fate, some more overdubs and voice overdubs, which the basic tracking did happen last week. But we got it wrong last week about A Love Bizarre, because that was in the King James version, that A Love Bizarre was last week. But in fact, it was this week on Friday. And I just want to say thank you again to Christina, because Christina sent me an email saying that's not right according to the paperback version. Okay.
Was Christina, was the email in love, the tone when you read it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How dare you guys get up here every Saturday and claim that you're and then you have
So first of all, Michael Dean, I do not claim that I am an expert. I am a lifelong learner. And what I love about our community, Michael Dean, about this What Did Prince Do This Week community is that we're here together, and I want all of our facts to be right. So I like being checked.
Yeah, look, no disrespect to the brothers and sisters in the Divine Nine, but being a Prince fan is not being in a secret organization. Don't be walking up to me with your crazy ass questions trying to figure out if I'm real. Don't be, brother, do you got 1995 Paris bootleg, the one he did after the show in the alley, well, wasn't nobody but him and Wyatt was, hey, don't be sliding up to me with them crazy questions, because more likely the answer is gonna be get out my face, crazy person. So there you go.
All right, so we're gonna get started with our first article of the week, and who knows how long we're gonna be here. But so when you have to leave, you just let me know. And Arthur, particularly, if you need to leave, we can talk to you about something special. I can't wait.
Okay.
All right, so this is Prince's Revolution. Newest rock idol gives performance of Lust Obsession by Etna Gunderson. And this is from the El Paso Times in El Paso, Texas. And this is for the Houston show, a review of the Houston show. Clouds of fog swirled around the shredded lace. Somebody's typing or something. If you can mute yourself or you're beating it, that would be great. Clouds of fog swirled around the shredded lace curtain, swaying overhead. A stage littered with fresh flowers seemed to part like the Red Sea, and a pedestal rose bearing rock's newest object of lust and obsession. Carnations rained from the ceiling as a lone spotlight froze on a diminutive man bedecked in a glittery green and purple floral coat. The stillness was shattered by a frenzy of rhythm as Prince of the Revolution exploded into the party anthem, Let's Go Crazy. Friday night's concert at the Summit in Houston was another chapter in the Prince fairy tale that grows more incredible by the hour. The concert was the second show of an unprecedented 6-night stint of sellouts in the huge auditorium. Prince Rogers Nelson, rock's favorite bad boy, charged into view only recently, but he's been breaking records set by veterans. Last week, the 25-year-old earned 10 nominations for the upcoming 12th Annual American Music Awards, outshining both Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson. His Purple Rain LP, 8 million copies strong, is outselling the Jackson's Victory album 2-1, and it claimed the #1 spot on pop charts for 14 weeks, holding even Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA at bay. The Purple Rain movie has grossed more than 64 million, and this is 64 million in 1985. Keep that in mind. And it cost 7 million. And the caption for this is Prince brought his revolution of driving sex-oriented rock music to 20,000 screaming Houston fans Friday night. All right, and there's more. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I want to read just a little bit more. And the current Purple Rain tour set records by selling out 7 shows in Detroit and another 7 in Washington. Prince placed Minneapolis on the musical map. All right, so that's all I'm going to read from this one. For the sake of time, you can read the rest through our slideshow. And I do want to take a moment, because I'm probably going to do this a lot this week. If you go to bookclub.polissolid.com, you go all the way down to the bottom. That's where you can find the slideshow, and you can actually do some homework and actually read the articles that we probably won't be able to read this particular.
Just one thing, he pointed out, the $64 million at the box office. I don't want us to forget that at this moment, Prince, we've been talking about him being the musician and all of that great stuff, which you're supposed to talk about. But let's not forget, at this point, he is a movie star, like literally, like a legit box office phenomenon at that moment, where everyone is going to see this movie. So it's not just about there was buying the record. He was that hot movie at that time. You know, the same way the wave in our sort of time, you could have seen a Barbie movie was the big wave, or all these, you know, sort of cultural movements that sort of happened with, oh, that movie, Purple Rain was that. And maybe we'll talk about it as we go on, but we have to remember this is the start of the movie star era Prince, you know, that is in conjunction with these albums. Like, he's dropping major Hollywood movies, success or not, but he was on that level, you know, coming from being what he was to just being a movie star all of a sudden, you know. So it makes a lot of sense when you think about why these concerts are just crazy, because not only he's the musical man of the culture, he is the movie guy of the culture too, you know, sort of colliding, and it's black, and his whole styling. So you just had never seen anything like that. You know?
For sure. And I do want to point out Chris Bournet's comment, because I think it's an important one. And Chris Bournet says, I miss local journalism. Now, a lot of days, a lot of newspapers are owned by corporate chains and run the same concert review in every city. So that's another reason why I do like taking time out to read these reviews, because you can see some threads that get repeated, but then sometimes there's some outliers. So I really do think it's important to do that. All right, let's keep it moving. So this is the ticket from the Sunday show, January 13th, Ticketmaster of Houston. Special guest Sheila E, really big for you, even though they misspell Sheila's name, because like they always do. I don't understand that, but we will forgive that. Okay, here are some photos. These are some amazing photos taken by this photographer, Kevin Doyle, of the January 13th show. So we got the feather boa. I finally remember what that's called. We got the pink feather boa that Mr. Terry schooled us about. And I love this shot, like the lights, you know, and everything with the X's. Beautiful shot. Love the color. Love the swag.
I like that.
Yeah. And this is similar, but with mo swag.
That's when was it? Is your man got an ass like mine?
Yes.
Yes. That is the most pimpinest print you'll ever see right there.
For sure. I love the shot. And whenever that moment happened in the concert, get a little Wendy Prince action here. Then you get to see the white cloud, I think. But it just looks purple because of the purple lights. Love this shot. Again, another one of those starlights. Love that. And the silhouette that we talked about last week. And all right. So welcome, Ronald. Okay, so we're going to get, I have so many readers today. I'm so excited. So I don't know like which page is this for you, but Monday, January 14th, 1985.
It's page 17 in the softback, in the paperback.
Yeah, that's what I got. I got I'm looking at my paperback, but it's probably something else in the heart. So it's Monday,
page 18 in the hardback.
All right. Ricky, do you want to take that one?
Sure.
You can skip this quote.
Oh, okay. Dear Michelangelo, sax and
wait, go back. Start off with Monday, January 14th, and the venue and all that.
The Summit, Houston, Texas, 17,094. You said skip the text. The quote from Matt Fink. Prince decided to shoot a promo vid for the next single from Purple Rain, Take Me With You, during his residency in Houston, as he did with I Would Die For You and Baby I'm a Star. So the previous November, Prince once again.
So that's different. All right. Yeah. So C Liegh, I'm going to have you read because that's different. Do you mind reading yours?
So we're doing Monday, January 14th?
Yep.
1985 estimate?
Yep.
All right. Dear Michelangelo, sax and percussion overdubs, Prince vocals.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said.
Did you?
Yeah. That's what I started off, and you would like go back.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I wanted you to read like all the Dear Michelangelo. I'm sorry. I'm really first of all, I'm sick. So you guys have to help me out.
That's what I said, Prince. I played the E sharp part. You didn't play it the way she would do.
You didn't play the E sharp enough, damn it.
All right.
I should know your instrument better than you.
All right. So Ricky, go back to Monday, January 14th. Estimate. Say, dear Michelangelo, sax and percussion overdubs out and all that.
Prince vocals mix. Okay, the Summit, Houston, Texas. It says the Mobile Studios, 3 a.m. after January 13th show. After tonight's concert, he went through his usual routine of cleaning up, changing his clothes, and recording. After getting his hair done, Prince returned to the stage of the empty arena and added his vocals to Dear Michelangelo. This early versions, they contained only Prince at this point, with Sheila adding her vocals and it's his percussion the following week.
Thank you, Ricky.
Mhm.
You're the best. All right, so we need to talk about Dear Michelangelo. Does anybody want to talk about it?
Well, I will say that I like the song.
Oh, that means you don't love it then.
No.
Hey, Mike.
I'm sorry. No,
It's the song that comes before Love Bizarre.
I think that
It's got that going for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I think the song should be more like people should be up on it, but I think because of where it's positioned and that it's on Sheila, I don't think that it gets the prop that it should. But I think musically, I love the song. I think it's dope.
Arthur, man, that's funny. Arthur said it comes before Love Bizarre. That's his claim to fame.
But listening to it sonically, it does. It sounds so much of that time of Prince. Like, yeah, it sounds like it would have been something on the Purple Rain tour. I
the synth patches and everything. Yeah.
I love this comment from Chris Bournet. I love Dear Michelangelo. Whenever I visit a museum, I listen to it on headphones. That's what I'm talking about. So I have my original 749 Turtles Sheila
Turtle sticker. Turtles, records, and tapes, baby.
That's right.
Vintage.
Yeah. And so going with what?
Like if I had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle license, boy, I'd have scooped that song a long time ago.
And as Arthur said, it is in between Sister Fate and Love Bizarre on side one. That's where you got it going on. So
when you hold it up like that, it just feels like a time record, like the way the songs are sequenced and stuff in the band. Almost it's like the other side of on the other side of this picture is the time at Castle. You know, the picture they took or something. It's such a interesting.
You know, actually, I haven't looked inside this in a very long time. So this is the inside.
The hair.
Yeah, the hair.
With the little blonde.
With the unreadable text.
Yeah. And then
You know, one thing about Romance 1600 is that it did a great job extending the Purple Rain look and era into 1985.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though Prince gradually moved away from that period.
Yeah.
And through the Saturday Night Live performance that she had, I think she did both. I think she did both performance slots. I think she did Sister Fate. I know she did Love Bizarre. I think with 1985 and coming off of the Purple Rain tour in March, Prince kind of almost disappeared. I mean, I know there was a Raspberry Beret video, obviously. There was also an America video, obviously, where he had a completely different look. And then, of course, Live Aid, the video performance with him, Lisa, and Wendy. I think it was in the Superdome or something like that. Yeah. But you didn't see the Prince that exploded on screen with the hair and the ruffles and the buttons and the thing. You know, it was Sheila E that kind of carried that look forward, and along with the music, obviously. But I mean, it kept that engine going. and I think sustained Prince being in the conversation indirectly.
Yeah, because there was also a lot of press about their relationship in the movie, like Entertainment Tonight and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, for sure.
Somebody brought up Crush Groove in the comments there.
Ah, Crush Groove, yeah.
Do you guys remember when I saw Crush Groove, and of course I saw the Prince sort of Princeisms within the movie, but I also noticed I started to see a little bit of the pushback, at least from the people that I was hanging around, you know, like a couple years before, everybody was on Prince, you know, loved it. But when I remember when that movie came out and the people I was with, it was there was a little bit of clowning, like, oh, they got your Prince, Mike, you know, kind of. It was said, it was like, yeah, we're not really on that no more, kind of moving into rap and things, and the style of it, and I kind of felt like Sheila kind of still represented the style of the culture that was kind of quickly being phased into something else. It was like she was still just a little bastion, like you said. Prince had kind of, you didn't really see Prince a little bit during that time, but you saw that styling through her. Yeah. And it was sort of pushed into this hip hop thing. And I kind of saw,
and she was like grounded.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, I could see the changing a little bit, you know. I was like, okay.
So
that style that I can see is kind of moving away. That's just kind of how I perceived it. I don't know if you guys saw it.
No, I'll go the other way. So I agree with you 100%. And what I would say is, as someone who's one of those Prince fans that didn't get into hip hop, I did like the movie Crush Groovin', but she always looked out of place to me. It looked almost like, that's the best way. Yeah, that's the best way I could. Forced. Yeah, and it did. And I want to be clear, not that she didn't seem authentic, not that the love for her didn't seem authentic. Like, I think the movie worked. I won't say I like Crush Groove as a movie. I like the plot. I like everything about it. But she did, in her styling and her aesthetic, she was the only non-hip hop person in there. And I think a lot of it comes across in the rap scene when she does the rap, right? And they kind of make fun of her for trying to rap. And so I do think that was, I like that shoehorned into the film. I think it was, she's pretty and she's with Prince. Let's be really clear. Like, they're trying to make money. And so I don't think it was out of the norm to say, hey, Sheila is pretty. She also represents the Latino Hispanic community. It's always a big part of hip hop. And she represents Prince. And I think two things could also be true. Because at the same time they're doing Crush Groove, Prince had donated money so they could do the video for the Dr. King song, right? Remember when
Sing Celebrate.
Curtis Blow had done the King song, and they couldn't get money for the video. And Prince paid for the whole video. So I also think that was also a move by the people making Crush Groove to say that even though we may have moved on, Prince is still part of the hood. And we're going to some kind of way keep Prince as part of the hood by having Sheila. So I think what you're saying is correct. And that was like, you know, so I just say, yeah, that's a long way of saying that, yeah, brother, then you're correct. And then also as a non-hip hop fan myself, I did go to it just for Sheila E and was happily surprised that, I really like this movie. This is a really good movie. And it made me get into some things that I probably wouldn't have gotten into. But I will say this about Romance 1600, which I know is going to get me booed off the screen. It is my least favorite Sheila E album. And I'm going to say two things. Sex Symbol is my favorite Sheila E record.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Sex Symbol is my favorite.
I've never heard that before.
From top to bottom, it is the only Sheila E album that I like every song. From top to bottom, I love every song on Sex Symbol. Now, my favorite Sheila E songs are Cuckoo and Honeyman. Like,
the third album is my favorite.
Yeah, like that damn Cuckoo and Honeyman. Like, I'm not going to embarrass myself like I did too last year when we first started. I sing Cuckoo just at a drop, and Honeyman, got to be the victim of your weekend vows. You got to say, oh, play, that's funky, baby. That honey man. Oh, that's funk. That is funk. And then cuckoo, baby, cuckoo make me want to pop and lock, baby.
Yeah, all right, rerun.
Cuckoo world. Rumors got 10 because I lead a guy boy. New love with the face. Keep ready to kill. Who knows when they're older? Baby, they will. Life in pain. Let's take a time. Oh, baby. Oh, honey, man.
Okay.
That's funk right there, baby. So, yeah, so I would say that.
C Liegh would win the karaoke for that one.
Oh, man. Romance 1600. It's just Romance 1600 is probably my least favorite. But the problem, let's say, here's the problem with Sheila E and Prince. And when you say, so I can say on the one hand, Romance 1600 is my least favorite. But come on, man. Love Bazaar.
Yeah.
I mean, you gonna keep coming back.
That's one of the best Prince songs that's not on a Prince album.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love was to say it again. Best Prince song not on the Prince album.
Yeah.
Look. And when he whipped it out during the Love Sexy tour.
Hit it, Mike.
Oh my God.
Sexy.
There we go. When he whipped out and he brought that funk back. So I'll stop there. So Sister Fate and Love Bazaar kind of saved the Romance 1600 album because other than those two, it really doesn't do.
You don't like Yellow?
Other than I did
Yellow, Michael. I love Yellow.
I did run around the house a lot singing Sister Fate, Destiny. There's a fire room going round. Okay, I'll stop now. All right,
can I make a comment about Crush Groove?
Yes, of course, Ricky.
C Liegh brought up an interesting point, but it's two I like to add to that. It's two things. Like Crush Groove, while it's seen as a hip hop movie, it kind of was a representation of what the youth of the times it was into. Because if you think about it, like New Edition is in the movie.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
You're right.
And then, in my theater.
And then you have, if it's 85, Prince was so big, they knew he wouldn't be in the movie. But so the best thing that they could get for representation of him was one of his proteges. And so like she represents that princely influence that was kind of dominant at that time amongst our peers.
Yeah, see, both of you, Rick and Celie, represented proxy. It's Prince by proxy. That whole whole album is Prince by proxy, and all of the wannabe groups.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Ready for the World, which group that absolutely triggers me. But I'm saying,
Sheila,
the Purple Rain tour in '85. It's like he's supporting an album and Prince is supporting a movie, but he's also laying firm roots for this period that sustains him throughout the rest of the calendar 1985. And the new music that Prince comes out with, which is quote unquote technically, old music, right? Yeah. It's so different. The Round the World in a Day album is so different from Purple Rain, that is enough to, what am I trying to say?
Sustain.
Mid 1985, like Prince is gone.
Right. Right.
He's gone. He's off into parade making music that doesn't sound anything like what he's done before. D'Angelo and I got into this something. And she like really triggered, she like flipped the switch on me. She was like, well, Art, no Prince album has ever sounded like the one that came before it. And I was like, oh, damn, that's true. But still, with the power of Purple Rain, all Prince needed was for people to do certain things, make certain music that just kept him in the vernacular. It just kept people's minds on him.
Right.
I mean, in my junior high, the same kids that talked about how Prince looked and dressed and he and ha 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 still played Erotic City.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they dressed like LL Cool J.
Right.
Yeah.
Who talked about Prince and Mike, in an effeminate way. So it's like there's this whole hypocritical, mindset, over Prince.
Let me ask you guys an honest question. So coming off of Purple Rain, and we talk about, it seemed like he was gone or something, but I mean, he does drop another album, right, Around the World in a Day. But is that Around the World in a Day, and sort of how the general populace takes to that? Is there a level of disappointment from those people who just like, what the hell is this?
And
then that opens sort of kind of like, okay, that happens. What else is there that we can jump into? And I think Run DMC and these groups sort of ready to catch the opportunity of, here's the next thing. And I'll just go back to the movie to say that I think that movie sort of is a transition too. I think for how that movie can get made is that, we just had the most big phenomenon movie and artist. Okay, he's not going to be in this, but we're not going to just also make some movie about some rappers that most people don't know about either.
Right.
We'll pull a little bit from the Purple Rain thing and slap that onto it too. So at least we can try to get some of that into it. But while all that's going, there's a cultural shift happening.
Well, let me say this. The Minneapolis sound was like a hot thing. And we didn't mention this last week, but plug to this, brother. Spring, summer 85, like Jesse Johnson was blowing up. Like he literally was keeping the torch kind of going.
Yeah, he was the best representation of keeping that sound and feel alive, but did it in his own way.
I always say Jesse Johnson is what Warren G was to Jeff.
That's a great analogy.
I'm saying, like, he was there during the making of all of that, contributed to it, but we didn't necessarily know that. And then he has to step away, and then he has one of the bigger hits of that style and sound. Is authentic. Same way Jesse, he's there helping with all that stuff, but it wasn't until he sort of steps, and then he becomes the harbinger of Minneapolis sound. When Prince abandons it, Jesse's the one that takes the album.
Like Jesse, I never recall hearing him be like brunt of those effeminate jokes like Prince and Michael were. Like cats, dug Jesse. And even as his album was kind of going on, he gave one of the best B-sides ever, which was Free World. Which I know which all the hip hop heads in my school love. You know what I'm saying? Like Free World, was banging. So and he kept that going for he kind of extended it really further, kept it going for the rest of 85 as well. I think Jam and Lewis did too, because they did Alexander O'Neal, and then they did Sherelle's second one. So the Minneapolis funk side was there. So the sound itself wasn't kind of fading out. It was just different people were kind of coming to the forefront of kind of carrying that torch, or representations of it, shall I say.
And it goes on to be Control album, right?
And we have to remember that Tender Love is also on the Crush Groove soundtrack. And Tender Love is written by Jam and Lewis. So so all of that and so I just wanted to throw in that Tender Love. So that Prince wave. So two things. So it goes back to what Brother Turnbull was talking about. Like Prince was always working in two timelines, right? I always steal Brother Turnbull's point, but by 85, and to Brother Dean's question, there was a financial, economic, sales drop off. Around the World in a Day was the first "What the F is this" moment in the Prince family, right? It was the first, if you're talking about the Prince trajectory. So those of us who was there,
are you sure about that?
I think Dirty Mind might have been the first.
No,
wait, hold on, Dirty Mind.
The reason I would say Dirty Mind wasn't necessarily the first, because I'm talking more, I guess, in numbers. I guess if you want to say the second Prince album was because we have to debate is, was the second Prince album ever seen as a traditional R&B record? And I think that's what we would have to, because on the one hand, there is the thought that, let's deal with it. I know this name is a bad name. So let's deal with the Nelson George school of thought for a moment. that when Prince dropped the second album, he was the de facto next Stevie Wonder, right? Because he was,
The second album, I thought people were saying that. I don't know about Nelson George particularly, but people were saying that about the first album.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is though that the second album had actual hits though, right? The first album, the critics were saying it. The second album backed up the critics with the actual hit record.
Yeah, with sales.
And so if you then going from that, then I can see where people could say. So when Prince goes out opening for Rick James, you're going to see what in your mind is the next de facto Stevie Wonder, and this guy in the raincoat and drawers comes out, right? So I guess if you looked at it from that, but I think that Prince's imagery wasn't as rooted in the cultural zeitgeist in the way it was by the time you get the Purple Rain. So by the time you get the Purple Rain and then you get Around the World in a Day, it is such a different record, not only from what Purple Rain is, but also such a different record for what's happening on the radio. Like there is not one song on Around the World in a Day that sounded like a program song on the radio. As different as When Doves Cry and Let's Go Crazy sound, they are rooted enough in something, but Raspberry Beret, Paisley Park, the latter is a gospel song, but that's not, you're not checking for gospel in that same way. And I would say that Around the World in a Day becomes that kind of moment where you have fans who are waiting on Purple Rain tour to go, what the F is this? And that's when you get the first financial decline. Prior to that, every album sold more than the last. Now, of course, no album is going to outsell Purple Rain, but it wasn't just an economic decline. It was also the culture has shifted. So you got the culture has shifted. This album doesn't sell as much, and this album doesn't sound like anything. And I think that becomes that first, what the F is this moment from a commercial and from a diehard Prince fans, where you get more Prince fans starting to creep over and follow hip hop and not follow Prince as much. I'll stop there.
I disagree. But it depends on your definition of a hardcore Prince fan. So I started listening to Prince with Dirty Mind. So I didn't go through the For You Prince in real time. I had to go back. So I started with Dirty Mind. Then after Dirty Mind, you get Controversy. For me, those are two totally different sounding records. And if you go from Prince to Dirty Mind, those are two totally separate. And then with your argument of, I don't think Dirty Mind sounded like anything that was on the radio. That's me personally. And so for me personally, going from Dirty Mind to Controversy in 1999, Purple Rain to Around Rolling a Day, that's what I was expecting. I did not.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you.
Yeah,
but you said the hardcore Prince fans. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so maybe I misspoke. What I'm saying is, when Around the World in a Day was released, the top 40 Prince listeners, the numbers not only declined, the numbers not only declined, Prince's place in Black culture is usurped in a way with other music forms, so that Around the World in a Day becomes the moment when Prince is no longer the new fresh thing. And so that's the first thing. That Around the World in a Day becomes the moment when Prince is no longer the new fresh thing. And yes, Prince was always doing something new. But there were also Prince. There were also Prince fans that were Prince fans before Purple Rain. There were Prince fans that were that Dirty Mind, Controversy, 1999 fans that didn't really rock with Around the World in a Day. I'm not saying now putting a number on it, but that there were Prince fans who were Prince fans before Purple Rain who didn't rock with Around the World in a Day. In the way that some of us, like there were some of us who stayed with Prince through the 90s, right? There were some of us who bought Prince albums through the 90s, but there were also lots of Prince fans who bought Prince's albums in the 80s who didn't buy Prince albums in the 90s. That's the same as those people who bought Prince albums before Purple Rain did not like or did not expect Around the World in a Day. There was a drop off in fandom. What number to it, I can't put a number to it, but it was a large enough drop off that I felt it in going to concerts, and I felt it in conversations, and I felt it in, there were just people that didn't rock with Around the World in a Day the way they had rocked with Dirty Mind, Controversy, 1999.
Well, I think, I think there were a lot of fall 85. I think there were a lot of drop offs because there was this juggernaut record that came out called The Show.
Right.
And for a lot of people,
right,
that shifted. Like a lot of dudes that might have been in the Prince shifted. A lot of dudes that might have liked I guess like New Edition and Force MDs shifted. So like it wasn't just like Prince was the only one feeling that shift. It was kind of a shift that's reverberated from that one record that made a lot of people shift to go to hip hop like all of a sudden. So, but that shift kind of started really like before the Purple Rain tour ended and say before like Around the World in a Day kind of got dropped. Like people were kind of shifting to prior to that. That's just how I remember now. I'm saying, but
I'll add this. We talk about that Mojo interview. At that same time, Billy Sparks, who was touring with Prince at the time, does also an interview with Mojo. And Billy is actually promoting two shows simultaneously. He's promoting the show in Detroit that's going to happen. He's also at the same time promoting the Run DMC show. And there is and maybe I have to go back and listen to that interview, but I always felt there was a bit of tension in Billy's voice, and tension may not be the right word, of trying to make that progression and promoting both Prince and Run DMC simultaneously. As almost he's trying to either convince the Prince fans to come listen to this Run DMC or to convince the Run DMC people to come. Now, I know I'm a year ahead of me. I know I've got into 86. But, and I want to be clear, to the Prince fans who rocked with Around the World in a Day, like I did, I'm not talking about y'all. Like what I'm saying is, for those of us who continue to rock with Prince with Around the World in a Day for the reasons that Prof Duff articulated, there were also about 10 to 15% of the fandom that didn't. And that's a sizable amount when you're talking about record sales. I'll shut up. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. We know that Prince purposely did Around the World in a Day in terms of making the record at the same time that he was making Purple Rain, for the standpoint of not being pigeonholed into this sound that he knew that everybody knew the record was going to be great.
Right.
And so, but Pop Life is what you heard coming out of the kids' cars. And that always tells you what is still hot, if you will.
Right.
From the radio standpoint, Prince had Manic Monday on the radio. Prince had Sister Fate and La Bizarre on the radio. Prince had Andre's version of the Dance Electric on the radio. That sustained him as well. And then you had these other satellite kind of projects. And what I mean by
She's
satellite,
always in my hair too.
Right.
Okay. But Jesse's I Want to Be
Free
Your
World.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
Can You Help Me? Free World, which was also coming out of a lot of cars. Vanity's
My Girl,
first album came out that year, so that mentally attached you to thinking about Prince. Morris Day's The Oak Tree was played on the radio, that mentally attached you to Prince. So that's the sustainability. Tamara in the Scene, Everybody Dance, sustained Black radio, didn't have anything to do with Prince, but had everything to do with Jesse Johnson, which wrapped you right on back to Prince. And so that's what I think that's part of C Leigh's point in saying that Around the World in a Day was so it wasn't Purple Rain Part 2. It didn't extend the sound very much, but these other acts did.
Right.
Some were directly related to Prince, some were indirectly related to Prince. Oh, Sheila made you think about Sheila E, which made you think of, you see what I'm saying? So that kind of sustainability in the minds, in the hearts and minds of the public that loved Prince for Purple Rain sustained him through the calendar year. But I'm not delusional. Going back to Sheila E. Sheila E was a force in her own right because of Glamorous Life. People loved Sheila E. So to see Sheila E in Crutch Groove was a draw. You know, I thought it was the most bizarre thing that she turned into be Run's love interest. But that's how that went. And you know, we just let that go. You know. But I think that I think for me, Dear Michelangelo, I was kind of thumbing through the pages of my old ass book here, kind of looking up some stuff. But Dear Michelangelo was kind of a breather, if you will, coming off of Sister Fate, which I really, really liked, and then going into Love Bizarre, which was just like, oh my gosh. It's such a great song that just
I'm sorry, Arthur. Hi, Harold. I gotta say hello to Harold.
What's up, Brother Pride?
Go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah,
What's up, Harold?
Hey,
man, I laughed.
Put Web Diva's question back on the screen. This was Prince's response. Take this beat. I don't mind. I got plenty of others. It's so fine. Take my cup.
One thing I wanted to add to this conversation too, I think the fact that Prince, and one thing I would say, I think I agree with everything you said, but I think Around the World in a Day also solidifies Prince fans to another level, though.
Yes,
it may not have sold what the other ones, because for I think the newer fans, or for people who just again wanted to experience what they saw in the movie and all the stuff that they fell in love with him for at that time, it doesn't do that because it's going somewhere else, and there is no at least I don't think it's marketed right, where there is a monster hit that is undeniable, where the first album and pretty much every album before that had that. If you listen to nothing else, there was always that one song on a Prince album that would floor you. And I don't think Around the World in a Day wasn't presented that way initially, where it was just a floor you type of song. I don't even think there was a actual single.
No, for weeks it was like the radio programmers just played what they wanted to play. And interesting, that record really was treated like it was a rock record. I think it was Prince's first album. It was like really treated like a rock record. And a lot of the journalists, particularly white journalists, compared it to Beatles records.
Yes,
taking them completely out of the context of what Prince fans traditionally, have been. And that was a result of rock writers really not knowing where to position Prince.
Right.
But it was either going to be, the heir apparent, like Black Press talked about the return of Stevie Wonder. White Press talked about the return of Jimi Hendrix.
Right.
And those are two completely different storylines.
Right.
And I think Prince, without having that monster jam, that in my mind, I associated Prince in my mind. Like there was going to be them records that, damn how he looked or whatever. It was heat. Like he had the heat, you hear it going down the street. I think that's why that album sort of gets lost in that. And now all these other people, it opens the door for them to carry it on. But I almost wonder now if he would have held on to Erotic City and say, well, at least if that's going to be a B-side, if Erotic City would have been a B-side to any of those singles on this album, I think that would have carried him over to where he kind of got back on the script in terms of delivering that monster song to start off the project. No matter how you felt about the rest of the project, you're going to love Kiss.
But serious question, personally, wasn't Dance Electric enough? Wasn't Dance Electric enough for you?
Yeah, it was.
For me, it was, but I don't think most people heard that song. It didn't go past people who knew about Andre Simone. I don't think it wasn't, to me, it wasn't as big as the Jesse Johnson stuff.
Right.
Just organically was the shit. But again, Jesse came with, I know exactly what y'all want to hear. And I'm gonna give you some ills. I'm gonna give you the hit of it. That B-side that we talked about was a legitimate smash in the streets. There was no video for that. I don't know how much it was on radio, but I heard that
a lot. It's on radio a lot.
It was a lot. That had the streets. And I don't think, and Prince didn't come with that. Like, Controversy was that song. All the songs in the time were always those songs. The songs on Purple Rain were treated that way. I just didn't think he didn't lay down that thing.
I will say this,
but I don't think that Around the World in a Day really is any different than the previous Prince albums before it. I just think his audience was quite different, and he wasn't a superstar back when he did those albums, so nobody wasn't paying attention the way they were.
I have this. I think one of my favorite memories of this album during that time. It was a Saturday. I was in Birmingham, still living at the time, and like Saturday, afternoons, nice day, man. People were like washing their cars and stuff at this apartment complex across from where my parents and I stayed, and somebody was blasting She's Always in My Hair. And it was like everything froze for that moment. And people were like, what is that? And it was like, I had heard the song because I had bought the single, but it was just one of those moments where everybody that say was outside had that moment where they just stopped. It was like, is that on the album? It was like, where is it? And that's when you could call like radio stations and find out like, hey, look, where can I get this tune? But that, if there was a song, like Mike said, that just kind of floored you, it was a B-side. It wasn't necessarily on the album, but it was, like a B-side.
It was almost a cat and mouse to find it.
But that was one of those ones where, like, I never forget that. It was like, it's everybody stopped playing, everybody stopped moving, kids stopped jumping rope, like double dutch and all. They just stopped. It was like, what is this?
Also, real quick, I don't know, D'Angelo, I know you're about to go off in a good way. Can somebody say too? I think Web Diva put it up there. And I get this from my cousin, who was a huge Prince fan before Purple Rain and all that got me into it. But she wasn't feeling Around the World in a Day. And I kind of feel like a lot of it was visually what she saw. She didn't see that fine ass Prince in her mind. I think like super fine. He's on got the picture on the cover. I don't think she really got that imagery with Around the World in a Day. And when that video came out, I know she wasn't feeling the way he looked. Like, it's like that's that fine. I'm a straight man, but it'd be like if Idris Elba or something came out and he came out when he had a hairpiece and it was like a blonde wig or something. He's going for the rocker look. I'm those sisters who'd be like, what are you doing? Like, where's that brother? That look of the fine, super fine dude. I don't think he even gave that. I'm asking. I don't feel like he gave that either. Where it was like, you didn't know what he was doing. You didn't see him that much. And when you saw him, he had the Liza Minnelli look. That wasn't the look.
He definitely wasn't a kid anymore.
Yeah, it was just like, whoa. So I think a lot of that might have to play into it too, because he's a visual artist as well, let alone music. But
the one thing, if it's okay, one thing I wanted to say, I do think that if A Love Bizarre would have been the leading single for Around the World in a Day, it would be a different discussion, because Sheila's audience wasn't as big as Prince's at that particular time. A lot of people did not hear A Love Bizarre. But I do think that if A Love Bizarre had been on Prince's album, it would be a song that the masses talk about today, because it is such an incredible album. I mean, it's our song specifically when he performs it live on Sheila's. Hold on one second. On Sheila's Romance 1600 VHS. So
I agree with you. I think the same would have been said with songs like Mutiny and High Fashion. And I say that because he takes them songs back and like, I'll perform these goddamn songs. Like, this is me singing this shit. I think if you would have came with that energy, yeah, it would have been all over.
Can you highlight? I think it's Elizabeth's quote question.
This one?
Yeah. So. All right. So let me. All right. So Elizabeth, these are Prince's words. These are not my words. So I'm gonna use Prince's words to answer your question. Direct quote from Prince. He said, I spent so much money. He got a three. So Prince got a three deal budget. His 3-album deal. When he first got his deal with Warner Brothers, he got a 3-album deal. And when you get a 3-album deal, you just get a budget, and you got to make that budget stretch over all 3 albums. These are Prince's words. He said, I spent so much money on For You that I didn't get a hit, that I put myself in the hole, that I knew I had to make a hit on the second album. This is still Prince's words. He said, after I got my hit with the second album, it was cool and all, but that wasn't really the fan base you wanted. Because they only come around to check you out if you have a hit. From day one, Elizabeth, Prince always understood that there were 2 poles. I'm not going to call them extremes. I got to have hits because the hits allow me to do what I want to do musically. And if I don't have the hits, then I can't do what I want to do musically. That doesn't mean that every song we got from Prince wasn't a real expression of his musical ideas. But if you just go back and read interviews from 1978 all the way through to the day Prince died, he will specifically tell you that he was always thinking specifically about what he wanted to do, what was the perception, and what were the limitations from the industry. Those 3 things were always on Prince's radar. That's why some of us, me, love him so much, because he was realistic enough to understand there's this business. And there's this business that traditionally limits Black musicians, that traditionally tells Black musicians that they can't play certain types of music, even though it was Black musicians who created rock and roll. And so as a Black musician, I am thinking about, as Brother Turnbull says, working in one timeline while creating another timeline, because if I do not, I'm going to be like so many other Black musicians who came before me, who were limited, who had their careers curtailed simply because people wouldn't let them do what they do, and then blame the musician for not being talented enough. I hope that answered the question. But so yes, Prince was always thinking specifically about these things, which is why he was always making these moves so that he couldn't be pigeonholed in the way that other Black artists were pigeonholed. And those are Prince's words, not mine. I'll stop there.
this could open up a deeper conversation. I'll let it go.
Yes. So we're gonna go back to what did Prince do this week?
Good point.
And on Monday, there's we're at Houston, Texas. I love this ticket because you can see the outline of the state of Texas. I know, but I'm a designer. And then now, C Liegh, if you don't mind reading the Monday, January 14th, Houston, Texas, 17. You started, so just go to page 18 in the paper book and read that paragraph, please. And Elizabeth said, thank you, C Liegh.
Where it says, with Prince?
Yeah, with Prince.
All right. So, yeah, this is, I'm just seeing what I'm reading. Oh, we're reading about the show, right? Okay.
Yep.
With Prince constantly adjusting the show, he would sometimes rely on the works of his protege acts for source material. Apollonia 6 had recently released Blue Limousine, and Prince led the revolution through a rehearsal to get his band familiar with the track. Apollonia, Susan Moonsey, and Brenda Bennett were asked to join this tour to create something new for the show, but also to promote their album.
All right, thank you. And so this is a guest pass for that date on the 14th. And I'm confused. In the paperback version, and it might be because I'm sick, Duane has that there is a Tuesday, January 15th date, but on Prince Fault, there's no date, and I could not find any tickets for this January 15th show. So, do you guys have that in the hardcover book, this Tuesday, January 15, 1985 estimate?
Yes. Yes.
Do you mind reading that? It's skipping the quote, but just Arthur with an epic tour like this.
Sure. Tuesday, January 15. Sister Fate, overdubs, Sheila vocals.
Says, do you have January 15th, the Summit, Houston, Texas estimate?
16th for us.
Oh, 16th for you.
Yeah.
So that's one of those paperback changes. That
the 15th starts with an epic tour like this. Multiple shows were planned in the same arena.
That's what the hardcover 6. So that says for the 15th, and there's something different for the 16th.
Yeah.
Duane, all right. So
but that's probably why he has estimate there, because the estimate means he's not sure probably if that show took place that day.
But I don't think that show took place because, one, it's not on Prince Fault, and two, I couldn't find any tickets for it. So I really don't think this 15th. And the reason why I'm making such a big deal of it, and the reason why I haven't read, and I hope that sometimes Duane watches this, and I probably need to follow up with Duane, is I'm trying to figure out in this, in the paperback, is he trying to say that Prince sometimes used a stage to record, and there was an error with the Summit, Houston, Texas, gray block or something. I don't know. And D68A, thank you. And D68A is saying definitely no show on 15th. So it's confusing that Duane has January 15th, but showing that there's the Summit. So maybe it's because he just recorded there or something that day. I don't know. Okay. All right. Next up, we're gonna skip it and go to Texas Southern University.
Woohoo!
Yes. So I think they're in both books about that Texas Southern University. Can somebody read that one in the AM on January 16th?
Texas Southern University Auditorium in Houston, Texas, capacity 1,800. And I'm skipping the quote.
Yep.
Prince wanted to bring that joy to those who couldn't attend the regular shows. So on days like this, he paid the crew and band to perform for those who were often overlooked. At 10:30 in the morning, Prince and the band staged a free matinee for the MD Anderson Cancer Center and invited the children who were suffering from the disease, even pulling up several audience members to dance with Prince during Baby I'm a Star. At his core, he wanted to help others and share his music with people who were truly in need. Susan Rogers recalled a multitude of times that he did this over the course of her 5 years with him.
All right. That's good. All right. So
can I say something about MD Anderson?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so two things. First of all, I want to say, for those of you who don't know, Texas Southern University is a HBCU. It's a historically Black university. So for those of you who are not in America, HBCUs were the universities that were created in the mid 1800s when Black people were not allowed to go to colleges, not allowed to go to white colleges. Myself and Brother Wyatt, we are products of HBCU. So that's the first kind of historical note. The second note about MD Anderson, show you what kind of heart my wife has. And that's why this means so much to me. My wife has gone to MD Anderson twice with people who were receiving cancer treatment there. So for those who don't know, MD Anderson is one of the leading cancer treatment centers in the world, not just in America. It is one of the leading cancer treatment centers. And what they specialize in is fundraising and getting monies. So if you're suffering from rare kinds of cancer, they can get you, basically you can leave wherever you are in America and go to MD Anderson in Texas and get treatment almost for free. And so my wife, there have been two people from Mississippi who were able to go and they didn't have family. And so my wife went and spent a week with 2 people getting cancer treatment at MD Anderson, because that's the kind of wonderful human being is, so that Prince would take out at the time of this $1 million show to put on a concert for MD Anderson because of the brilliant work they were doing with cancer treatment back then. Says a lot about the kind of human being Prince was. I'll shut up.
All right. So I actually have an article that I want to read about this because I think it's important that we talk about Prince's philanthropy. And this is written by Ken Hoffman, and it was in the Houston Chronicle. In Houston, he's a prince of a guy. In January 1985, and this actually article is from 1997. Note that. This is a 1997 article. In January 1985, the artist formerly known as Prince shattered every attendance and box office record at the arena formerly known as the Summit by selling out 6 straight concerts. But there was a 7th concert that week, a concert that got no advance press coverage. You couldn't buy a ticket. No reporters were allowed in the show. TV cameras were banned. No review appeared in the Houston Chronicle. Even the sold-out audience didn't know who was going to perform until Prince stepped on stage. In 20 years working here in the concert business, that was the most incredible event I've seen, said Sydney Greenblatt, marketing director for Compaq Center. A few weeks before arriving in Houston, Prince sent word to officials at the summit that he wanted to do a free show for physically challenged and hearing impaired children. Prince had gotten involved with a school for hearing impaired children and was learning how to sign. There were a couple of conditions to the concert, though. He wanted to do the show someplace other than the summit, and he wanted to keep the concert a secret from the media. In fact, if the media found out, he'd cancel the show. We made arrangements to bring thousands of challenged children to the Texas Southern Auditorium, Greenblatt said. We were helped by the Richmond State School, HISD, and MD Anderson in rounding up the kids. We sent permission slips to their parents saying the children would be attending a special music event. We also hired a teacher to sign the language to the hearing impaired children. The stage was set and still no one knew. At 10:30 a.m. on January 17, 1985, Prince hit the stage and did all his hits for 2 full hours. He brought his band, The Revolution, and all the smoke, bells, and whistles. When the kids recognized Prince, they began screaming and stamping their feet. That's how they wrote it, stamping. He sang, "Let's Go Crazy," and the place did. The auditorium just shook from excitement. It was packed to the gills. They even filled the orchestra pit with kids in wheelchairs. In the corner of the stage, they had a spotlight on the teachers signing to the children, Greenblatt said. Prince pulled kids on the stage and danced with them. It was an amazing, amazing show. I will never forget it. To this day, I have the greatest respect and admiration for the artist. It was a wonderful thing he did. Prince, or the artist, or whatever you want to call him, has another nice gesture in store for Houston. He's scheduled to play New Year's Eve at Compaq Center at his insistence so that young fans could attend. 1,300 tickets went on sale for only $19.99, and that was in 1997. So
I was at that show, the New Year's Eve show in.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I spent New Year's Eve with Prince in Houston. Monica and I, Monica and I basically, what's the word I used then? We basically stalked Prince from 96 through 98. Like we stalked him all across the South, multiple shows. So yeah, we spent New Year's Eve in the. So I've seen Prince in the Summit, in the Compaq Center, like whatever the forum was in Houston. I've seen him in all those. So yeah, that was. Because we all know he did it in 87, but I wasn't privy to it in 87. I'll tell you what was memorable about that New Year's Eve show was hearing Prince sing Alder Lane and then follow it with Lift Every Voice and Sing. It was the most beautiful thing. Again, I'm speaking directly from as a Black Southerner to hear Prince sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, you know, it was the closest to a religious spiritual experience in all of my religious experience, you know, moving Prince. One, I didn't know that Alder Lane could be that soulful. That's number one. Like I had heard Alder Lane all them years, and I'm probably mispronouncing how the song is. That's how it looked to me. That's how I pronounce it, right? So number one, just hearing him sing All the Lane That Soft, and then to follow it up with Lift Every Voice and Sing. And it was kind of a cultural moment because there were a lot of white people in the crowd who didn't know what Lift Every Voice. And for those of you in the chat and who watch this, Lift Every Voice and Sing is what's called the Negro National Anthem or the Black People's National Anthem. It is a song that was written to symbolize and to encourage Black people in our struggle for first-class citizenship. And to hear Prince sing that song on New Year's Eve in 1997 was just an experience that I'll never forget. I'll shut up.
Thank you so much, C Liegh, for sharing that. That's a beautiful story. You're so lucky.
Yeah, D68, and you own it, brother. You got to find that audio.
Okay. I don't know. I'm so behind in the chat. But
You got to find that audio.
Yes, Kim. Audie Lang sing. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kim.
Yeah.
All I know is the New Year's Eve song.
Old Lang Syne.
Old Lang Syne. Like I didn't know. Old Lang Syne. Like I didn't even know it was called Old Lang Syne. I just knew it was the New Year's Eve song.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's try to get back to it. So we got another ticket for the Wednesday show. And if I can get someone to read about the Wednesday show from January 16th.
I can do it.
Thank you.
The Summit, Houston, Texas, capacity 17,094, attendance unknown. Let me skip the quote.
Yes, please.
Okay. During the stay in Texas, the three members of Apollonia 6 joined him on stage multiple times. I was on the road a lot during the Purple Rain tour anyway, because I was out there with Roy, remembers Brenda, who was married to Roy Bennett, the lighting director for the tour. I was on stage a lot of the nights during the encores. Anytime Susan, I, and Apollonia happened to be there, it was like, okay, you guys are here. You're coming on stage. For this performance, Brenda was asked by Prince to join her on stage to sing the first verse of Blue Limousine, which was played during the Baby I'm a Star Jam. Prince had been recording with her for several years and was by many accounts fond of her voice. During the active years I spent working with Prince, he had spoken to me a couple of times about doing a solo album with me, reflected Brenda.
Thank you so much.
It says that Brenda Bennett solo album produced by Prince never materialized.
Yes, it did. It's called Brenda 6, as Professor Duff always tells us.
So I'm very excited to share this next article that was given to me by a dear friend from the Edmonton Journal, which is in Canada. I'm not going to read it, but there's two things about it. One, I mean, everybody should know that Vanity is Canadian, number one. And so this is why I'm assuming she's getting this love. But one of the things that I love about this article, and again, we have to remember that this is 85, is, and I'm a designer, it's a treatment that they did with Vanity and how different this is for a newspaper, and that they took the time because they could have just typeset it and been done with it. So that's one thing. But I just want to read a little bit from the same, and then also, I guess, point out that the top of this page is dedicated to Vanity. The bottom is dedicated to Brenda Bennett, which I thought was amazing. That and the title of that article is No Puppetry for Princess Apollonia 6. Even though they misspell Apollonia because it's 1 P, 2 L's. I always remember that with a mnemonic poll, like you do a poll, so it's POLL. All right. So I'm just going to read a couple things from this article about Brenda. And the first thing I want to point out is they say Brenda Bennett's group, Apollonia 6. Let that set in for a little bit. Brenda Bennett's group, Apollonia 6. And I wonder, why is Brenda being featured as opposed to Apollonia? And then I always love the captions to the photos. And this one says, Apollonia 6 is Brenda Bennett. She's anything but your classic exploited sex kitten. And I just want to read this one paragraph. In the coming months, Bennett and company are putting together a touring band for road work and pre-production for the next album. Whatever may come, she seems determined enough to continue her career in music alone, together, whatever way works. I really wanted that Brenda Bennett album, but it never transpired. So I just wanted to, I just love reading that in real time from 1985. All right. This is from something called the North Country Magazine. I don't know what city this is from. It might be in Dallas, Texas, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just want to read this little bit here. But you can see it's a really long article. And in the middle, it says the rock emperor has taken on the most unlikely role of teen idol. Here we go. Everything is many-sided when it comes to Prince. The complexity behind his personality, his music, his writing, even his marketing is exactly what makes him such a fascinating figure. But the mania of the last 6 months has created the danger of overkill, and his snowballing teen idol status has begun to alarm critics and Prince devotees of long standing. His current concerts, they've noted, include virtually all of Purple Rain and almost nothing from the more important Controversy, Arthur, and Dirty Mind albums. They say Prince.
Look, Arthur gave her that look like, I'm gonna let you roll with that. I'm just gonna let you roll with that. Don't roll with that.
Shot.
They say Prince looks to be intent on satisfying his new fans at the expense of the kind of innovation that has made him one of the few certified geniuses in rock today. But it's hard to tell where Prince is really going with all this. He's been a critical darling for long enough. He wants to be a superstar now. 6 years ago, he was crooning soul love songs in a smashing falsetto. Then he growled out obscenities over heavy-duty rock and roll. Today, he's doing Hendrix and synthesizers and hitting the top 40.
Can I say something about? Oh, well, go ahead. I don't want to.
No, I want you guys to, so this actually is really funny that we had our previous conversation.
That's what I wanted to go back to.
Yes.
So Brother Dean asked a great question last week. And for those of y'all who don't know, unfortunately, after every stream, Brother Dean, Brother Wyatt, and Prof Duff get a really long ass email from me, and I know they'd be like, "Really, dude? Again, another long ass email."
I love them.
I look forward to him, brother. I look forward to him.
But so in the context of this article that you read about Prince becoming a teen idol, and last week, Brother Dean asked a very important question about. He asked, "Was Prince the first underground act, particularly first Black underground act, to kind of achieve this mainstream crossover, and then also goes into kind of teen idol status?" And this is important because what a lot of people don't realize is in 1985, the teen idol is only 20 years old. Let me say this again. There was no such thing as the teen idol pre-1955, and here's why. Prior to 1950, American companies had never marketed products and services to children. The reason this changed was at the end of World War II, two things happened. America had an economic boom after 1948 and the end of World War II, and the GI Bill helped to create the white middle class. And the reason I say the white middle class is because the GI Bill was not readily available to Black soldiers until about 20 years later. I am actually a product, and my father's a product. I actually had part of my schooling paid by the GI Bill, but I digress. So Little Richard and Chuck Berry are technically the first crossover teen idols, because it wasn't until 1950, Little Richard and Chuck Berry, here's something people don't realize, they had their first hit records 2 months apart, and I want to say it was in 53, but I may be wrong, maybe 52. But their first records hit the charts 2 months apart. That began the teen idol, or music being promoted to teenagers. There was no music prior to rock and roll. Blues and jazz was never promoted to teenagers. Blues and jazz was adult music. So technically, to Brother Dean's question, we would have to ask, did we consider Little Richard and Chuck Berry underground artists first? Because I don't know how many records either of them had before hitting the charts, which means that Prince might have been, to Brother Dean's point, Prince might have been the first artist who was an underground artist, because technically Michael Jackson was not an underground artist. Michael Jackson was a well-established, middle-of-the-road R&B act. That's not a knock against Michael Jackson. We're talking about economic sales here. Prince was an underground cult. Don't let your mama and wife and children listen to this dude kind of star who crossed over and became a teen sensation in a way that no underground black. Prince is before UMG. Prince is before Ghetto Boys. Prince is before Master P. Prince is before, like all of these people, Prince is before Snoop and all these people who were kind of underground people who had these hit records. Prince might have, but because we have to understand, that's because the teen idol thing was only 20 years old when we got to 1985. I'll shut up.
I did not.
Frank Sinatra in revisionist, I get that, in revisionist, Frank Sinatra was not necessarily considered a teen idol in the sense of his records being bought most by teens than by adults. His records were still bought most by adults than by teens. But I do think, I'm glad you did bring up Frank Sinatra, because Frank Sinatra was the Elvis Presley comp, right? When Elvis Presley came out, the closest thing they had to him was a Frank Sinatra, but Frank Sinatra was still, his records were mostly bought by adults than by teens, where Elvis's first records were mostly bought by teens than by adults, if that makes sense. I'll shut up.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Thank you for that schooling. We needed it. All right. Who's going to read about the Houston show Thursday, January 17th? Can I get a volunteer, please? Not all at once. So many of you want to do this.
I'll do it.
Oh, go ahead.
You got it, Rick?
I'd say, well, let me do the Birmingham one. Since I got to talk about that one.
Yeah, that sounds good. Can somebody else do the?
All right, Thursday, January 17th.
Yep.
Venue, the summit, capacity, begins with the quote, "It took a handful," of that one?
Yes.
Okay. Took a handful of years for us to work up to being that completely fabulous Purple Rain band, so tight and good. I think we lived up to the flamboyant image because we had worked so hard. That was a quote from Lisa Coleman. Despite Purple Rain falling out of the #1 position on the Billboard's Top 200 album charts for the first time since August of 1984, the final show of his historic 6-night stay in Houston ended on a high note. Apollonia 6 once again joined the band for the encore of Baby I'm a Star, and Prince left the city in awe. The summit no longer functions as a concert hall, but this historic run for Prince was listed in the top 20 of all time grossing for the arena. Prince was a person who unapologetically worked hard, especially when inspired. And a day off between shows was often filled with other work. As Susan Rogers recalls, this quote from Susan, quote, "We finished the show at the summit and the rest of the band, as the rest of the band traveled on to Alabama and Prince and I stayed in town, I was with him at the video studio, and we edited the video for Take Me With You," end quote. Before the editing could begin, Prince decided to spend the rest of the night recording more music for Sheila's album.
All right. So here is the local working personnel badge for the January 17th show. Here's one photo from, I don't know if it's from this date or it might, I think actually I couldn't find the date for this. So this is just a really fantastic shot from one of the Houston dates that I just had to show by Tim Murray.
Can I say something about this picture?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Show y'all how young and green I was. Now remember, I'd seen the Controversy tour and the 1999 tour. So in my mind, Brother Turnbull, in my mind, Brother Wyatt, Prince is sliding down a Batman pole or a fireman's pole and not a stripper pole. It was years later before I actually connected that to a stripper pole as opposed to a Batman pole or a fireman pole. So I would like for people in the chat, at what point did the pole become a stripper pole, or were you like me, a young person, thought that was the bat pole or the fireman pole? That's it. Go back to the picture.
I just thought it was the Prince pole. Go ahead, Mike.
I never associated with the stripper pole until you just said that. I don't think I can handle that. Lord.
Michael, I'm with you. I never made that connection.
Oh, my bad. I'm the perverted one because people in the chat are like,
exposed.
My bad.
Oh, what's going on in your world?
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa L said she saw it as. There you go.
Oh my God!
I never knew what a stripper pole was back then either, so I wouldn't have thought about that.
So I didn't like I said, it was probably after the nude tour when I thought, damn, is that a stripper pole? Have I? Because I always thought it was either Batman pole or the fireman pole. Anyway,
that's fucking me up right now.
So, C Liegh, for me, it was always Prince's pole. Why? Controversy is my favorite album. The Controversy tour is one of my favorites. Seeing the pole in the night. So for me, it was just a continuation of Controversy 1999. So I always just said, oh, that's Prince's pole. So I didn't make any fire analogies or any.
Let me ask you this. Were you familiar with the old Batman show from television?
I saw it, but I didn't really.
Okay. See, that's what, so my question was, how many people were familiar with the old Batman television show and Batman coming down the pole? And okay,
but I associate that with firemen too, though.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's crazy. I didn't think about this. Prince,
Michael
my Billy, rare form. That wasn't in Purple Rain, but I knew he had that imagery because I remember seeing the videos from 1999. But it just never. I just thought it was a cool thing. Like I thought he was just playing on the cool. Because as a kid, I always was cool. Like going to swing down the pole like the fireman or Batman. I just thought it was cool. I didn't know he was like doing a strip. Supposedly. I don't know. I think that's your mind. That's not my Prince. That's what I'm arrived. That would.
And I think because for me, and again, I've been accused of reaching, but I started thinking about, Prince's dad playing music behind strippers. And I think that when you think about Prince's dad, and let's be clear, a lot of Prince's early show was burlesque. And so for me to be in all honesty, I was connecting the pole to the burlesque kind of aspect of the show, and then knowing Prince's father had played for strippers. But again, that could have been my own young perverted mind too. So I agree. I may have been just reaching there.
I love Zakia's quote. Prince wanted to feel like a superhero. And let's see. Lee Christian says C Liegh is definitely on point about it. And Audra said, I'll admit in my 20s, the pole did take on a new identity. I blame hip hop videos. So there's a lot of great comments in the chat. And it says, there were also poles to slide down on playground jungle gyms. I associated Prince's pole with childhood playfulness from Chris Bournet. And I love that. So D68 like trying to bring us to some clarity. Wasn't it in an arch though? He had it on previous tours, photos showing him swinging from the arched part of it.
Yeah, it's an arch. It's an arch. It still didn't take them other ideas out of my head, though. But you're right. It is an arch.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, C Liegh, I think you're the only person who has the paperback. Is that right? In our group today. Can you read about Dear Michelangelo, Friday, January 18th, 1985 a.m.?
Sure. Dear Michelangelo, overdub mix, a love bizarre, tracking mix, Chester Studios. You know what? I've been saying Chester Cat all my life, but it don't look like that when you're reading it. So I'm Chester. There's one thing saying the word Chester Cat, and then there's other thing reading it. So anyway, Atlanta, Georgia. Evening into following morning. Producer Prince, artist Sheila E, engineer Susan Rogers.
Skip the quote.
Okay. Prince and Susan Rogers worked on the video for Take Me With You, and then flew to Atlanta to continue recording on Dear Michelangelo at Cheshire Studios during the day off from the tour. Quote, my journal of January 18th, fly to Atlanta for a recording session, recalls Sheila's keyboardist, Susie Davis, who provided background vocals for the track. And this is Susie Davis still talking. Quote, he was very specific. I remember him telling me to sing breathier. I thought I was singing breathy, and he was like, no, sing breathier. Same way Professor Duff corrected Michael Wyatt. I want you to read January 17th year. All right, let's move on. He immediately started working on the next track, A Love Bazaar, with Sheila reportedly providing the drum intro into the song. The rest of the track came together quickly because Prince had fleshed it out with The Revolution during the sound check the previous month. Yeah, adding lyrics and creating the signature riff to the song with them. Quote, this is Lisa talking. Quote, I remember working on that because Lisa, that was just a cool little harmony line that I played. End quote. Then Wendy adds, if you were playing something new at soundtrack, it was probably going to end up on someone's record. End quote. That's Wendy. Once again, the bulk of the song was a solo performance, according to Davis. This is Susie Davis talking again. Quote, at 2 a.m., he started another song, and I watched him create it out of nothing. First the drums, then keys, then bass, guitar, more keys. He just kept adding layer after layer. I was determined to stay awake to witness it, as it was amazing watching him work. He created the fattest, funkiest track called The Love Bazaar, and at 8 in the morning, I got to sing background vocals on it, end quote.
Okay, let's stop. Just really, I just want us to think about this. This is the second song Prince is working on. Love Bazaar is the second song that Prince is working on this night. He started it at 2 a.m. in the morning. Like working it like a job, Michael Dean. And we get A Love Bazaar. That is like incredible. So just read the next two sentences and remove, and then the next page, but don't read the quote. So
okay. Eddie M was one of several people invited to join them during the time at Cheshire's while they were recording A Love Bazaar, which is why I wanted him to get the job, and I was mad at Eric Lee for 2 years, but let's move on. I'll let that go. After recording in Atlanta, Prince traveled to Birmingham, Alabama for the next concert status. Additional work on Love Bazaar, including Sheila's percussion, would take place during the tour, and the track was eventually edited to 3 minutes and 46 seconds and released as a single. The full version, 12 minutes and 18 seconds, was included on her Romance 1600 album. The B-side of the single would include A Love Bazaar Part 2, 3 minutes and 48 seconds, which was simply another section of the album version. A blend of parts 1 and 2, 7 minutes and 13 seconds, was released as a 12-inch and backed with Say the People, a song that contained no input from Prince. The single peaked at number 11 on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart and number 2 on the Billboard's Black chart. The highest position for the song was on the Billboard's Hot Dance Disco Club Play chart, which it reached number 1. The song would be the only track listed as produced, written, and arranged by Sheila E and Prince.
All right. Okay, we'll keep it moving unless someone has something to say. And Ricky, it's your world. Let's read about Saturday, January 1985, and let's hear about your experience. Page 23 or 24, depending on which, probably.
So, like, you want me to read first? Or you want me to talk about it first?
Read it first.
Okay, read it first. All right. If Prince was unhappy, I'm sorry. Venue. Okay, Jefferson Civic Center. All right. Coliseum, Birmingham. 17,700 sold out. If Prince was unhappy, the tour had the potential to be difficult, and the repetitive grind of the tour was kind of taking its toll on him. So remembers Bobby Z. What he thought of yesterday was already old. It was just the fact that he was trapped in this Broadway play and couldn't really change it. Baby, I'm a Star was when he kind of cut loose, but otherwise he was stuck doing it and couldn't call out our different songs. I'm sorry, so everything's automated. It would have had to run the way it did. So he became trapped in the kid character. A second show in Birmingham the following evening was postponed until early February. It is unclear why it was delayed. I can tell you why later. Instead, the tour left for Cincinnati directly after the concert.
All right, Ricky, let's hear.
Man, where do I start? Like, where do you want me to? I mean, like, I don't.
Give us the royal treatment, I saw 1999 at the Birmingham Civic Center, but I didn't see. I saw Purple Rain at the Omni, so I want to know.
Okay. Well, okay. A story about the 1999 show. I don't know if I told you this, but I was in a church play, and my church was kind of going past that Civic Center, and it was a jumbotron that advertised that show.
I know it. It
yeah, and at Prince, the time of Van 86, and I couldn't go. One, because I was too young, but two, I had committed to doing this Christmas play, so every time I had like play rehearsal, I had to ride by that jumbotron, like reminding me of the show, and then our play night was the same night as the show night. And I remember, like, come play night, I'm sitting in there, waiting for everybody, waiting our turn. And I was one of the main characters. I was like, man, I want to be at the Prince show. Okay, me and my friends was like, yeah, the Prince show. So I say I didn't say Prince had a very kind of leading up to the Purple Rain tour announcements. He had already been there for like 1999 and Controversy. So people kind of figured he would be coming back, but because Purple Rain was so massive, there was no definite. And when the first dates came out, it was just like the major cities, and Birmingham is not a major city. And so it was kind of like, man, is he coming? Is he not coming? And then the announcement was like, not like now where you could buy tickets like online. You literally had to go stand in line. You had to wait, or you had to know somebody that could hold tickets for you. Fortunately, my parents knew somebody. Okay. So, but prior to that, like that summer, that early fall, like everybody was on like Prince was going, oh man, if he comes, I'm going, it's this, it's that, or whatever. And I was like, all right, if he's coming, I gotta make sure I'm doing everything that my parents need me to do, because I didn't want to give them a reason to say no. I made sure my grades were straight, and me and math were not the best of friends. Me and math were like, like Black Panther and Killmonger. We was like going at it, Jack, and I was losing. So I was like, I got to make sure this thing works. And we had these family friends, God bless them, man, because I may get emotional telling this. I know they used to like look out for me and like let me rake their yard and stuff. And earn money. And that's where like I would get money to buy albums from and posters and magazines and stuff. And I had this friend of mine in middle school. I think he may be on here. Guy by the name of Marvin. Shocker for DJ Marv. Marv used to hook me up because his dad had like all the Prince's records. So like what I didn't have, he would make tapes for me. And his dad had all these dope 12 inches too. Like he had like Sheila's album and all this type stuff. So like the stuff like that I didn't buy, he would tape for me. So leading up like to the show, I remember like the night they announced it, I was like, all right, make sure stuff is straight. Parents had a family friend, and they would go look out the same family friends and let me rake their yard and stuff. And so like they had a ticket for me. I had, I was saving up money. I was like saving cans. You remember how you used to save cans and get money? I was saving cans. I was doing all that. And then when seasons changed, so that you couldn't do yard work no more. I couldn't wash people's cars. I was like, oh. So I was like, all right. like Christmas was coming, and I had asked my parents for like a guitar, and they said no. So I was like, well, shoot, if they say no to that, then they gotta say yes to the Prince ticket. I was like, you gotta give me something out of this. I'm doing everything right. And man, getting that ticket, the best way I can describe it for you is like in the Willy Wonka movie, man, when Charlie got the golden ticket. Woo! Boy, it was a happy day. Woo! Wow. It was one of the moments where you just, like, it's like, I know my guys can, kind of, like, I think might know this. It's like that girl, like you've been crushing on, and then she give you like her phone number, and then you call, and after that first phone conversation, y'all be, yeah, you're like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those moments. But what I also found out too, like what was funny was as the day got closer, my realm of occupation, so to say, was like neighborhood, school, church. So that realm of people that were entering my universe, a lot of them started selling wolf tickets once the show went on. Said, "Oh man, I ain't going, man. The time ain't gonna be there, and man, I ain't paying off for them tickets." I was just like, "Man, whatever, I'm going." And it was like, "Oh man, you ain't going. Oh man, you got your ticket." I was like, "Yeah, for real." And I was like, "Yeah." And so, and even out of my core friends, it was like 7 of us. Only 2 of us went. Me and then my guy, man, Duane Tudahl, and he was old. Most of my friends were older than me. So he was like a year older. And I remember like leading up to this, and my parents were like, all right, yeah, we got the ticket. You know what I'm saying? But I knew like not to slack off in any of these areas because I ain't want to have a moment where they pulled it back. Because I knew they had it, but it wasn't in my hands until show night. So I had to stay on top of it. And so leading up to this point, I had done a really, really, really deep dive into music. And what I mean by deep dive, if you've ever been to a water park and you've seen those like Olympic dives, that's like me diving off into music into the pool. I had done this deep dive. And so I had been like kind of, studying some other people who they said Prince was influenced by, like Sly Stone and all those type stuff. Cause I had, maybe that was the early like educator in me. I was going back to, well, if they said that he sounds like this person, let me listen to this person. And so, where
were you getting these records from? I'm just curious.
Okay, man, my dad's record collection.
There you go.
And so my dad's record collection has always been like, say, my greatest source of musical like education. Like anytime I needed something or wanted to find something, I could go down and find it out because he knew I wanted to be like a guitarist, but they were like, we don't know if you go really kind of do it. So like, we go hold off on that Christmas gift. But what he would do is he would say like, well, if you like, Prince's man guitar playing, check out like Ernie Isley. So then I go pull out all the Isley Brothers albums, like 3+3 and Live It Up and all that type of stuff. Not so much the like Choosy Lover and in Between the Sheets, but the early Isley Brothers, like like they be on the album cover, man, with jackets and no shirts. Yeah.
So you make me want to shout, throw your hands up.
No, not that.
Not that far back.
No, but like That Lady and okay. Hello, It's Me Again, like Footsteps in the Dark, all like that era of the Isley Brothers. And so like again, man, so my classmate Marv, his dad had like a dope collection. Like he was, kind of schooled me on some stuff. Like he hooked me up. So leading up now to the show, it's cold as a brick. It was like brick cold in Birmingham that night. But again, I felt this electricity. I was just like, yeah, like tonight's the night. And it was like, ooh, and for some reason, I wasn't listening to like Prince's stuff that day. Because I had just got like Jesse Johnson's first album. And I had been playing that the past like 2-3 days. And I was like, all right, because I wanted my ears to be fresh to like say whatever Prince was doing, because there was no, leaks of what the set list would be. Like we didn't have that type stuff like we have now. The only thing that you kind of knew of was, well, I know how the Baby I'm a Star, like I Would Die for You segments they would go. And so my friend, his aunt came and got us. Shout out to Aunt Rose, and she took us down there. And now, mind you, I'm in the 8th grade, and so I'm thinking like, okay, Prince has been like on everybody's lips. Everybody's like, yo, he's my guy. He's dope. He's this, is that. And I kind of sent some people because, starting to shift because we had talked about it earlier. Like New Edition had come out. And Houdini had come out. The Fat Boys was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of doing their thing. And so I didn't, I thought people weren't going, people isn't being like my peer group just because one, either, well, now I know, one, their parents may not have let them go, and two, they just weren't at that level of fandom. They were just like kind of like fair weather fans, like for the season only.
Right.
And so, again, I had, I think I mentioned in the previous show, my pastor was one of the people that was kind of speaking out against Prince coming. I had a close female friend of mine at the church where I went. Like, I remember I was going to a choir rehearsal, and right before I went into the room where we rehearsed, I know the youth department was, it was like a set of steps, and she was bawling. I was like, man, what's wrong with you? And she was like, her mom said that she couldn't go like to the Prince show, so she was like, like in tears. So it was kind of, some kind of,
that's wild.
A little bit. And then again, like I said in the previous show, man, my parents, man, shout out to them. They never kind of gave into the whispers and all that type stuff, because again, shout out to Ebony, Jet, and Essence, because having those magazines in our house, their coverage of Prince and their, like showcasing his like philanthropic, his philanthropic motives and things of that nature. They kind of knew what the deal was, and they weren't kind of sold on the hype. So like back to the show date, it was cold as a brick. Aunt Rose dropped me and then my guy off, man. And so we go in, and once we got in there, I was like, I gotta be one of the youngest dudes in here. Like everybody looked like they were older, even the kids, because they were like in high school. And so my friend Duane, he was like, all right, man, look, we go say you in 9th grade, but like you go like to the neighborhood school in our neighborhood because everybody that's going in anyway. So you just say you in 9th grade. I was all right, bet. and so we going around, and sure enough, you're seeing this like mixed utopia of people dressing like they were from Minneapolis. You know what I'm saying? Like you saw the guys with the permed out hair kind of blown up and looking like Dez, wearing headbands. You saw some guys wearing purple raincoats, you know what I'm saying? Or purple robes that they had made, God made that was sparkling and stuff. You saw the girls with the Vanity 6 and Sheila look. That's probably why I've always had an attraction for older women, probably because of that show, because the girls were dressed like Vanity 6 and Apollonia. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't just us. It was like everybody. It was, what I'm saying, African Americans, European Americans, Asian Americans. And man, like Birmingham is like, this is 85. Like Birmingham, it's like, this is the Church of the Forward bombing of the little girls. Like, so, to see all of that there, I was kind of like, wow. I mean, I saw it in my middle school, but people were still kind of segregated, like to a certain extent. But this was different. And I remember we went past the first vendor's bin. You saw the posters, programs, the puppet. I mean, man, like $25 for a puppet. I was just like, man, that Purple Rain puppet, I was like $25. But it's funny, like now it's going for like 100. So I was like, maybe I should have got one, but my funds were limited. And I was like, all right, and
25 is a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it was, man. And I remember I had, money, man, to get something to eat, drink, whatever. And I was like, I really don't need anything to eat or drink. So I'm going to get this band poster, which is the cover for the Live in Syracuse show. Like that was like the band poster. Because like Sheila had her own poster, Fink had his, and then that was it. And so my friend was like, nah, I ain't have enough for that one. I wanted it. I always wanted it. I didn't have enough for that. And I remember saying my friend was like, well, let's go get our seats first. but we had like different seats. So like, what do? Hell, we did what most brothers do, like sneaking in the movies. We go sit where we go sit, and then if they come move us, then they just move us. So sure enough, he bumped into some people that he knew from high school, like these girls that said he knew. So like we sat with them, and I remember we were like kind of, if you're looking at the stage, we're off to the right or left if you're looking at my hand, but yeah, kind of to the right, so we could kind of see. And I remember, because again, I was in the band, I was playing trumpet, but I really wanted to be a guitar player. I say was checking out the bass player instead of guitar player, and the guitar player was Miko. I didn't know that then, but I know that now because he had that Zorro hat. And the bass player was a guy, I always pronounce his last name, Benny Ritterfield, I think it is, but he's in the Love Bizarre video. He's on the back of that album, like Romance 1600. He went on to play with Miles Davis. And I remember because my guy Marv had hooked me up with a cassette of her album, I knew most of the songs. It was like, okay, because like nobody comes out playing their popular song first, especially the opening act. so like, she's doing the thing, say it with me, scream, and she's playing. It was like, okay, cool. I mean, she pulls the guy up on stage, people are losing it. And again, I'm looking around in this crowd, I'm saying like, wow, I'm seeing like older high school kids, definitely some college age people, definitely some folks that look like they're out of school, that's pre 30s, maybe early 30s type deal. And I was like, okay. So like Sheila finishes her thing, and so like we're sitting there talking, whatever, and the person say behind me taps me on like the shoulder. They was like, hey man, some lady back there wants you. And I was like, some lady? And I turn around, and it's one of my 8th grade teachers. And she and her husband and her crew of friends, like they're there. And she waves, and I wave back, and I was like, oh, okay. And so
Mr. Wyatt, why are you here? Did your mother know you're here?
You know what's funny? I mean, hold on, I'll come to it later. Let me finish telling this. So then,
I was about to say, I didn't know where you was going with this.
Okay, no. So I wave, so then, like before Prince comes on, I tell my friend, look, I want to go back and get this poster because I don't want him to be gone. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to wait. So we go back and get it. So I'm gonna try to come back. And this time, instead of sitting on the side of the stage, we decided to take somebody else's seats and sit in front of the stage. And so we do that. And so then, like the show starts, man, and so C Liegh can probably attest to this, and I'm not in any way, man, comparing Prince to this person. I'm only comparing my experience to what some others have said to seeing this other said person. But there are documentaries where if you watch them, like Hank Aaron and Willie Mays talk about seeing Jackie Robinson for the first time because he was their hero. Right. That's how I felt. I was like, man, I'm about to see like my guitar hero. And they came out, and shout out to Roy Bennett, because the lighting was like just added to like everything else. And it's hard for us to put into words for people who weren't in that era, because prior to this moment, everything we had seen, we saw Prince was always on video or even magazine. This was like real. And I remember thinking like, wow, we're breathing the same air, and like he's in the same building. And I was just like, oh man. And and it was like all the posters, all the pictures you see in magazines, all the like this was real time. And the show took off, and it was like high adrenaline, like high octane, like out the gate. It was like, and people was on their feet, people were screaming. It was like, I mean, everything that people say it is, I mean, believe them. It was all of that. And I remember like when it slowed down, which is, like most of the show follows the same format. Like if you see the Syracuse show or the ones that like,
D68.
D68, yeah, shows.
So when Yankee Doodle Dandy came on, go ahead.
Now that's now that's that he didn't do. I do remember that. He didn't do that. When he got like to the piano part and he did Do Me, man, you would have thought, whew, man, people lost it. Like people were like girls were screaming. You know what I'm saying? I saw a couple of dudes, man, looking at their girl like, what? If you don't sit down, they was losing it. He was all like into it. You know, like everything else kind of follows the same format, but I just remember like I just remember like really like watching him and Brown Mark just like, wow, like, you know, like, man, okay, these brothers are doing it. Like, you know, like music wise, I was just like, you know, if I was on the fence about being a like musician, then I was over to that side, like by that show. He kept saying like in the show, you know, all right, good night. Like, no, come back for more. You know, people screaming, come back out, do the show. Yeah, he'd do that. Then he'd come back. Of course, everything else followed the format. You know, I was glad that I stopped listening to like the Purple Rain album for like that week or so, because the arrangements of everything was so much better. Like, and the guitar solos, they were better. You know, just the transitions of everything was just better. And so, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's just somebody's.
Oh, and so, you know, like, you know, even like, I mean, when Dove's Cry thing was just like, I mean, like that blew people away hearing, I know, like the Brown Mark solo, because it like extended the song. And it was like, you know, again, now it's like, oh yeah, that does it. But then it caught us like a left hook, like we weren't expecting it. And it was like, oh, that was dope. And it wasn't like, you know, like there was no pause, like rewind, let me play that back. It was like you had to take it all in. And so you didn't want to miss like what was next, because, you know, it was like the you know, of course, even with the Computer Blue part, like when he does like that extended version, like we weren't expecting it. It was like, oh man, what is this? And it was like you kind of, you know, I know for me, it's like everybody else was just tuned out because I was just focused in. Like I didn't want to miss talking to somebody, like, you know, something that would come up next. And so, you know, like that was a show, and man, I just remember like leaving, like again, it was already cold, and they were calling for snow, and so, you know, I mean, back then there were no cell phones, so like once the show was over, my friend, you know, he had to go call his aunt. You know, she's like, okay, look, meet me at this side or whatever. And so we're trying to wait
in the payphone.
Yeah, had to go put the cord in the payphone. You know, had to make sure that, I guess, whatever money was spent, make sure you had enough in change to call home or call multiple times in case you needed to. And that was always, you know, just kind of, you know, being aware. You know, again, shout out to my parents, because they could have said no because of the age thing. Because I'm finding out now that, man, a lot of my peers' parents didn't let them go because of the age, you know, because they just didn't think that they were old enough to say whatever. Mine did, and this is, you know, post like the Atlanta Child like situation, which was kind of close, you know, close to me. So they did that, and I don't know if my friend, if he had not have been going, I don't know if they would let me go like by myself. You know, I like to think that, say, my dad, you know, might have, he been like, all right, look, I'll go with him, because I was that into it. But yeah, Aunt Rose came, got us. It was cold as a brick. It snowed the next day. Man, my ears were ringing for like the next like 24 hours. Like I tried to come home and like listen to Jesse again. I couldn't, had to just like not do it.
I like that you mentioned that. That was the first time that ever happened to my ears.
Yeah, it was like they were like ringing, and I remember having this excitement about hanging up my poster, because I came in, I tried to find a spot, but I was like, okay, I found my spot, I hung it up. Mom's made a bowl. I'm saying my mom's made some chili. I got some chili.
Mom's made some chili. Yeah, okay, add that part. That's
yeah, you know, mom's made some chili, man. I came in and like turned on like you know, Friday night videos or like night tracks or something like that. And I remember watching it. I remember, man, the next day, my sister, I have two younger sisters, but my oldest sister, she knew I was going, and man, she wanted to go, but she definitely couldn't go because she was too young. She was, you know, like real, like into like me telling her about. I was just reenacting it when she was like really into like, oh, for real or not, and all this. And I remember, I remember trying to call a couple of friends, like, yeah, man, it showed it, and they was kind of like, yeah, okay.
Haters. Bunch of haters, bunch of badass haters. That's all they were. Rick. Badass haters. Go on.
I mean, like I didn't know that then, but you know, like in hindsight, I was kind of like, wow, like they was really hating like the fact that I went to the show. And what I later discovered was that I was in a minority of kind of like going like to the show, you know, I mean, especially at my just like my age and grade. But then amongst young people like 18 to maybe like 14 to 13, I was in like a minority with that. We have some snow days, man, get back to school. I remember I came in, you know, sat down in class, and then the very same teacher, she was calling roll. And so like, cause my last name is Wyatt, I'm always at the end of the roll. So like she gets to me and she's like, so John, like you enjoyed the show? And the kids was like, the show? And it was like, and it got quiet. I was like, yeah, it was dope. You know, I was like, oh, it was this. And then the kid was like, man, what show? I said, the Prince show. She was at the Prince show. And then they turned to us like, you went to the Prince show? And she was like, yeah, you know, whatever. It was like, I mean, man, they couldn't believe it. They were just like, you know, like
a Little Rascals moment. Miss Crabtree was at the Prince show.
Yeah,
that meant something though for her, because Prince meant something back then for
yeah. I mean, man, she was relatively young too. Yeah. I mean, you know, like we thought. I mean, man, we thought that she was older than us. You know what I'm saying? But she was married, man. I think it just had her first child. You know what I'm saying? So we just, you know, we just didn't see her kind of going. But yeah, man, she was there.
It was in Erotic City, huh?
It was something like that.
Okay, teacher.
and you know, and then again, I didn't, you know, like in real time, you know, there was no I'm gonna go home, I mean, wait for it to pull up on YouTube or something. You kind of just saw it, and then you had your memories. I didn't really see the Syracuse show until like a year later when we had moved back to Atlanta. And I was at a friend's house, and he was like, yeah, man, so I got the tape. I was like, okay, I'm gonna come check it out. And we were watching it, and I was telling him, yeah, that happened, and then this happens, and then that, and then this. He was like, oh, for real? And even, you know, like prior to like Love Sexy, I didn't come across a lot of people that had been to like the Purple Rain show or prior shows. It was very rare. My friend that I went with, he was one of those people that kind of like got off board and, you know, kind of got off for a few years and then got back on, because we had, you know, like once I moved back to Atlanta, we didn't lose contact, but of course, you know, I'm in Atlanta, man. He's like in Birmingham, so we were in contact. And then when he came to Morehouse, which was when the Love Sexy tour came through Atlanta that fall, I was still in high school. yeah, like my senior year. And then I remember he said, was like, man, you going? I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, of course I'm going, you know, because what D'Angelo said didn't mention was that with each Prince album, yes, there was this anticipation of, I hope he tours, but it was also, let me have my money ready, because I wasn't one of those, you know, I was kind of, plug to Arthur, I was kind of a music snob in that if you weren't playing instruments, I was kind of like, you know, like I dug the Fresh Fest and all that stuff. Like I didn't go, but you know, if I'm at a gym jam or a party, I know it has its place and I'm into it. But in terms of me spending like my money, like, nah, because me going to that show, I might miss out on seeing like Jesse Johnson or somebody, or miss out on this new album coming out. Or you know, Prince may announce a tour, you know, and I didn't want to say, man, I don't want to go see Run DMC, not Prince on tour. Like, nah, that wasn't gonna happen.
Let me ask you this, Rick. After seeing the show, how did the music sound to you?
Okay. Man, you know, that was probably a gift and a curse. The gift in it was that it showed me what I wanted to be in terms of like a musician, like say the level to aspire to, you know what I'm saying? You know, to be a young African-American male, want to be, I think be a guitar player was not a commonplace thing. You know, man, a lot of times kids would be like, man, you trying to be white? I'd be like, what? You know, that's kind of asinine for you to say that. Right. But to have a guitar hero like Prince and Jesse Johnson, that meant everything, because them brothers look like me. You know what I'm saying? And same age. Yeah. And so I was like, you know, and not only that, but they were doing it like on a big scale. And it's like you couldn't deny their popularity or like their success. You know what I'm saying? And so that was the gift in terms of me seeing like what I could aspire to do. Like, I mean, Brown Mark as well, you know. The curse part of it was and you know, man, unfortunately, newbies won't get to see this, but once you see Prince, you judge everybody else by the Prince show. And if you see something 5 times. Yeah, you know, like once you see a Prince show, you judge everything else by that, and it doesn't measure up. I don't normally watch the reaction videos, but I came across one yesterday of this young British brother, and he was doing a reaction to "It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night" from like the Sign of the Times movie, and he was losing it. Like he was losing. Like, oh my God, he's doing this, and I was just like, yeah, man. I was just like, yeah, that's, you know, like once you have that level of kind of and Prince has always been, I say, you know, my musical North Star. You know, and so, you know, from that, from my fandom and studying him and things like that, that led me to other things and other people to kind of discover music. So yeah, man, I know that show put me on like a trajectory to where I'm in, you know, like I guess where I am now, because whenever I was able to go see him, I made it to go see him. You know, there was only one time he came here to Richmond for the I think the Hit and Run tour in 2000, and I put getting tickets in somebody else's hands, and they came up short. And then they tried to come back, man, with some excuses for me. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to hear it. I was heated and pissed. I was like, and I remember that show. They came, and I remember standing outside the theater because we had frat meeting that night. I was in like my black suit, tied and all that. And I was standing outside. And this person was like, yo, you got a ticket? And I was just like, nah, but I later got audio of it. But that was the only time since 85 he's come to a city and I've been able to go that I didn't go. But yeah, just in terms of like musical influences and things of that nature, yeah, like that tour, like music wise, just kind of did it for me. I know in recent years that tour, that show has meant way more to me. Because my friend who I talked about, like I would call him every I'm sorry, it's every January around this time, so we would reminisce about it. My friend was killed in a car accident.
I'm sorry, Ricky.
Take your time, bro.
Yeah, he was killed in a car accident in 2019. And so hold on. And so you know, the person that I used to share his memory with is no longer with me. And I used to thank him all the time. I used to be like, man, thanks for going to that show with me, because it did so it did so much for me, not just as a musician, but as a person. And so, you know, I watch it now and it means something different for me. I think his wife may be on here, and you know, I you know, I would share with her and their children, you know, sometimes about, you know, just that moment, and we would laugh about it. And his daughter now, she's like a drummer, and she plays drums. Man, she has an EP out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, her name is Bella, and I think hold up, I got it pulled up. Yeah, she has an EP on Apple Music, Changes. Bella, as in Bella. Yeah, so she plays drums, and you know, man, and so I know his son's about to get ready to go to more. Well, he's a senior, so he may be going to Morehouse. I'm not sure yet. But if Michelle, if you're out there, hey, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so like, you know, and we would listen, you know, like when I would call him, and so we would reminisce about that show. Like we, you know, just have laughs and sharing stuff, of course, because he would have some memories I know that I wouldn't have. And I remember when we had lost contact and then I reconnected, one of the first things he said was like, yo, man, say you still in the Prince and stuff? I was like, yeah. And he was like, man, can you give me some live audio? I was like, yeah, man, yeah, I got you. You know, and then, you know, like I hook him up with some stuff. And he later said, was like, man, yeah, okay, I was wrong. So I'm back on train now. And I was like, see, I told you. I thought you never should have got off the train, man, you know. But say, you know, like I always say, man, say, you know, say unless you were at the Capri Theater show back in '79, like all of us got on the train late.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's you know, like that's my memory of that. You know, like Birmingham was the first where I felt that electricity of kind of like, you know, like we're going to a Prince show, like day of, like what that meant, and then Atlanta just magnified it with like Love Sexy. So,
man, thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, man, no problem. Oh, yeah, there she is. Hey, Michelle, what's up?
Oh, wow, that's what's up.
Well, thank you so much, Ricky. I knew that only you could tell. Talk about show.
Now, who that?
Okay. Yes. So, all right. I just very powerful story. Yes, Love Sexy 71. Oh, hi! I didn't see my friend.
You didn't hear that boom on the door?
No.
Can you hear us?
I'm gonna send her back out. She doesn't know we're not finished. She thought we was finishing, but we're not finished. She say bye.
Almost like 18 minutes tops.
18 minutes. She ready for granddaddy to come play. This is my granddaddy.
Man.
This is my granddaughter Olivia. Say hello, Olivia.
Hello, Olivia.
Thank you, Ricky, for telling us that story. There we go. So,
oh, thank you. You
I'm
welcome.
gonna walk her out and come right back in. But I do want to say to Brother Staley, yes, Brother Staley, it snows in Birmingham and all across the South. So it even snows in Mississippi.
Yes.
Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Come on. Go down.
All right.
Okay.
So I just want to show two quick things, and I'm going to move everything to next week, but because I want to hear from Arthur about something that I want to talk about. So just with the quickness, I just want to show the ticket from the Birmingham show.
I haven't seen that in years.
I love this ticket because you can
man.
see it so clearly. And you can see, you know, Coliseum, Birmingham, Jefferson Civic Center, Birmingham. So yeah, there's a ticket. And this is actually a photo. So my husband actually went to this show as well. And this is a picture that one of his friends took from within the venue. So this is actually a photo from that night, which is actually pretty awesome. So really quickly, Arthur, give me 1 second to, I'm still learning how to use StreamYard all these years later. We're just going to skip a lot of slides and go to this one. So.
Oh, man, that was kind.
Yeah. So I want Arthur to come on because Arthur has begun, well, actually, how do you want to say this? Restarted?
Resurrected?
Resurrected. Yeah. How do you want to Talk about it.
Well, I do a show called Entry Points, and it's a pet project of mine that I actually started several years ago, maybe 8 years ago, when the Music Snobs and my other podcast, Snobs on Film, took just a long hiatus in 2016. The deaths of Prince, of course, but I mean, just the recurring deaths that happened of music icons all through that year was just, starting with Bowie and ending with George Michael and including Maurice White. It's just all this stuff. And so we took this long hiatus, and I still wanted to podcast. So I started a project called Entry Points, where it was just myself and a guest, and I did a series of audio shows and talked to a lot of people, many of which I didn't know. Engineers for D'Angelo and Nicolay of the Foreign Exchange, and I decided to bring it back last year, and I even started a YouTube channel, which is where the slides that D'Angelo kindly showed. And having done audio podcasts for more than a decade, it's very different to do it as a video show, because sometimes what you hear, it may sound great and run fluid, but when then you see how it looks, it's kind of, it doesn't always match in that way. And I'm still kind of getting used to seeing myself on screen and even the sound of my voice. But I started a YouTube channel, and I've released in parody the number of shows that I have on the audio stream. And the one slide that's not included is my most recent guest, Troy Gua. And many of us know Troy, both personally, but we definitely know him as Prince fans because he is the creator of the Les Petits Prince doll series. And it's a photography series just as much as it's the doll itself, where he has resurrected, that's a bad word for it, but where he has depicted moments in Prince's career that we're all so very familiar with, regardless as to where your fandom started. And it's a labor of love for him. But also in the case of D'Angelo, who was kind enough to sit down with me, we talk so much about to one another. We don't know a whole lot about how they got to that journey, or even what else they do. And talked about her career and how she found her way starting as a designer into the provost office of NYU, how she's been an educator for 2 decades, which was something I actually didn't know about, and so the idea of Entry Points has to do with finding your way into your passion, discovering things about people that you find that you relate to, because many of us have so many shared experiences that we learn that we have way more in common than we would have otherwise known, at the outset of it. I'm trying to do this on a monthly basis in terms of getting new content out. I kind of flooded the YouTube channel just to get it started. But my next guest that's on deck is a gentleman named Oscar Mazzola, who is a veteran career. I guess the best way to say it is he licenses music, and he's a career music publisher, and he is responsible for licensing music for film and television. And we had a really interesting conversation about artists who have made these multi-million deals with music publishing companies. Prince's estate being one that's most known to us, of course. And we talked a little bit about hey, are these just payouts? Are these like paydays? Or even these like legacy plays for artists of a certain age to sell their catalog, that it can then be put into different media that their music can live on and also can benefit their families and their heirs even after they've gone. I found out later, after we recorded, of course, that because he lives in the Los Angeles area, his mother lost his house, his elementary school burned, and as I'm putting the show together, I'm going to find maybe one or two of the best ways people can contribute to victims of the LA fires. And I talk so much when I talk about myself, I never really know what to say. But I hope you enjoy it. I try not to make them too long, a little more digestible. The snob shows, we do marathon sessions that can sometimes last 90 minutes to even 2 hours. And
so Arthur, that's one thing I want you to speak to. Like the music snobs is still going on. You talk about like this is just another, like you have so many podcasts.
Yes. So yeah, the music snobs is still continuing. We have several shows that are in the can. One show that's near complete that we're going to launch as a new seasonal structure. We're finally doing a show on Miles Davis. That took a long while.
That took coming. A while. Yeah.
The Snobs on Film podcast, which is a film podcast. What we like to do is we like to take a theme and do 10 shows around that theme. And the individual shows each talk about a different film that individually you really wouldn't necessarily see them going along with each other. But when you look at it thematically, they're much more interesting. The last series that we did was a theme called Strange Love. And upcoming now, our theme is called Breaking Free. And we've got Risky Business and the film Her. And we also did a combination music snobs and snobs on film show on Purple Rain. And that is really interesting because I got 6 people on the microphone, and the return of Isaac Perry, who had left the music snobs a couple of years ago. So it's a bit of a homecoming show. And to take a phrase from Michael, I am working it like a job because Lord, there's like a lot of shows that I'm working on putting together. So I'm a bit of a bottleneck trying to get them up and out, but we are trying to do it in a way that is commensurate and consistent with how we've brought out music snobs shows before. So, and we're also doing a show, and I'll end on this. 2 years ago, we had a music snobs show that talked about the history of Black music by white artists. And that was a very good show. And we're flipping it for this year. And we're going to do a show that's called White Music by Black Artists. So that's going to be a lot to that. So
interesting. So Living Color will be in that?
Oh man, I mean, it is. A lot of stuff that I try to unpack at D'Angela's symposiums, the things that I can't get to or overtalk myself, I end up putting into these shows. Even the idea of like why Des Dickerson never really made it as a recording artist.
So yeah, so I apologize. Yeah, I apologize for cutting you off. I want to end in 6 minutes, but I think this is a really good opportunity. You have on the screen, in my personal opinion, one of the best podcasters on the face of the earth, Michael Dean, when it comes to video. And so, Michael, what kind of advice would you give Arthur in terms of being a video host of a podcast? Can you give him some tips? Because you're the pro.
Hilarious.
You are.
Well, I would say, man, just do what you normally do. Don't overthink it. You're right. That transition from audio to video can be very intimidating. At least I took it that way initially. But I think if you don't try to focus so much on the visual of yourself and just lean on what you've always done, it's perfect, man. So the only thing I could tell you is just record the shows.
Yeah.
That's it. That just hit the button, hit record, and record it. Worry about how it looks and all that afterwards, but just do it, put it out, man. That's the thing. You'll learn once you start doing them and you put it out, but you'll notice that you were fine. All the things you're probably worrying about, like the lighting, this and that, they're fine. Just put the stuff out. And I would say probably be more or less professional in terms of what you think a video production is supposed to be. We want to just hear you be authentically yourself and see you, man. So, that's all I can tell you is just do you. Man.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Michael. You're welcome. All right. So youtube.com at entry points. And I just want to quickly say, because Omar is coming tomorrow to New York City to City Winery, and he was in that. Oh, he's going to be in Atlanta tonight. So I was going to ask the Atlanta people, but that's tonight. So, and then, did anybody go to the meet and greet in Atlanta? I'm curious. If you did, please type in the Googles anything that he said that's of interest. I really do appreciate it. And yes, Tanja, Monday is DC. That's what I'm talking about. So please support Omar.
Yes, please go, DC people, instead of to that other event.
What's
the other one?
What's the other?
The one no one is really going to, but they still having it.
The orange event.
Got it. All right. Okay. So just really quickly.
Wait a minute, before you get to Purple World, can I just say, and all I'm going to say is this. If you live in the South, or if you like to travel, all I'm going to say is you better go look at the artist that's going to be at this year's New Orleans Jazz Fest. It might be the greatest lineup that New Orleans Jazz Fest has had in about 25 years. That's all I'm going to say. It's expensive as hell, because when I looked at the tickets, but go look at the lineup for this year's New Orleans Jazz Fest. Your mind will be blown. The number of heavy hitters that's there. That's it. I'll say that.
All right. Okay. So with the quickness, we want to keep Jeremiah in our thoughts. If you can send him a kind word, if you can contribute to his GoFundMe. And this is the accompanying YouTube. D68A has the Houston show, as well as the AM show from Texas Southern University, and the show from the 16th. And there's the entry points episodes in this playlist as well. I'll add Turquoise. I didn't know it was already up. It's been a very long week. And Michael Ding, take us out.
First of all, thank you to Arthur, and thank you to Ricky for sharing this great story. Purple Rain, in that concert, and salute to your friend and his family.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that, brother.
Oh, that was some real stuff, man. So we love that. That just speaks to, just how connected we are through this music, through this artist Prince. Everybody that's come through his thing. I loved how you touched on the parents' musical library that traditionally sort of gifted or at least shared with their kids, and sort of how that shapes their music choices. And of course, we saw that with Prince and all those guys around them. Their dads and stuff were musicians, and how they listen to the music. So just love all that, man. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You learn something new about people all the time in the chat. Just hearing people saying, man, I heard Love Bazaar for the first time.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That blows my mind. I wish that, and this is why I love to do sort of this play along sometimes, just to be there with somebody, because that's probably their first time listening to it too. Like, just that, God, no, that's got to feel good when you hear something, somebody put you up on something, and then you go off and do your own journey. And that's what this every Saturday is about too. Like we reading this great book by Duane, but it's just sort of a launching pad for you to start your own journey and the journey that we have every day or every week together. So thank you, D'Angela, for creating this platform. This is a blessing. Listen, have a great weekend. Of course, our minds, our hearts, our thoughts, real prayers. We know people on the ground out there that's touched by this. So, you know, as much as we can do financially or just in support or getting on the phone with somebody, or you know you got somebody on Facebook, TikTok, all these places, and you know they're going to shoot them a little DMs, man. Listen, just like I'm just letting you know I'm thinking about you, like, you know, that type of thing can mean a lot to people. With all of that said, I thank you all every day, and just being a part of this, I'm kind of nervous now. So we're gonna wrap it up. But welcome, thank you, working like a job. We'll see you next time.
Hard back, baby.
Day ones.
You know it.